Shalom, shalom, and I'd like to send out a special Shabbat Shalom to the family who will be viewing this in our Pal Talk classroom. Shabbat Shalom. It is, of course, the Shabbat, Yah's holy set apart day, and I'd just like to give you guys a greeting. Now, this is a very interesting lesson. This is the 5th installment of our Fallen Angels lessons. This is Fallen Angels Part 5, and this is the origin of forbidden knowledge and the origins of the gods. Find out who these gods were, what these gods did, and how they went about doing it, and why they did it. And we'll discover the origins of forbidden knowledge. And in our second part of this lesson, we'll go into the esoteric or the secret societies, and so on and so forth. We'll chronicleize the beginnings of the secret societies from the times of Nimrod, and then we'll go all the way until your present day secret societies, i.e. the Masons. You got your Illuminatis, you have your Skull and Bones men, you even have your Hebrew, quote-unquote African American secret societies, i.e. the Boule, and the Greek letter fraternities. So it's a deep lesson. We have a lot of stuff to cover. First things first, we're going to go ahead and establish our ground points. We're going to establish our foundation, and then, with the will of Yah, we'll continue. So, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the books that we're going to be using. Here at Israelite Heritage, we use the scriptures here. It's published by the Institute of Scriptural Research, so we're using that. Those are the canonical 66 books from Genesis to Revelations, the books you guys are familiar with out there. Here we have the book of Enoch. This one is this was compiled and edited by R.K. Brown. This one right here. Also, we'll be using the book of Jasher. This book of Jasher right here. Sorry, the cover's ripped off from it, but and then of course we have the Old Testament pseudepigraphas, volume 1 and 2. Volume 1 and 2. So we'll be using those extensively throughout these lessons to gain a greater understanding. And also, we're going to be using this. This is a dictionary of Freemasonry. Of course, you guys know that the Freemasons are esoteric or a secret society. They have some of Yah's truth in here, but in this book, the truth is skewed with an even bigger lie, and we're going to decipher that through these up-and-coming lessons. But there's something in here, there's a very valid point that I wanted to point out in here from a term that the Masons use. And lastly, we have the Dictionary of Angels. This book right here was, the author is Gustav Davidson. And there's some pretty good information on angels and the fallen angels as well. So there's very good information in these books. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started in this lesson.
The desire to overcome death is nothing new. The Epic of Gilgamesh, the first recorded story of human history, accounts on clay tablets a mythical king's quest for immortality. 4,000 years later, humans are still searching for immortality. With the modernization of healthcare encouraged by biotechnology and computer science, remarkable gains have been made in extending human lifespans. A child born today can expect to live more than 3 times longer than in the time of Gilgamesh. Stem cells, caloric restriction, cryonics, nanotechnology, and transhumanism have become the watchwords of our era. Perhaps with the accumulation of these accelerating advancements, we are indeed on the verge of a complete reversal of the biological aging process, regenerative medicine in our lifetimes. And if so, if we are able to overcome aging and then live forever, what would this mean for religion? What would this mean for governments and social systems which rely on a noble and timely death? Perhaps once we've conquered aging, we'll no longer even wish to stay as vulnerable humans. Perhaps we'll expedite our progression from immortal beings into cyborgs and then to completely post-human entities. But now there are more pressing questions. What about the environment? Oppression by the wealthy over the poor? The problem of overpopulation? What about boredom? With a life that stretches out forever? And even more ominous, what if the universe were to end itself in a whimper, a long, expanding heat death into the infinite? If so, what's the point in trying to live forever anyway? While it's impossible to answer all of these questions within one documentary, we can provide a glimpse, a brief snapshot in time, from the voices of the visionaries at the forefront.
Of course, you guys just viewed that Exploring Life Extensions. That was the introduction to that documentary piece that those people did over on YouTube. We only watched the first minute and 40 seconds of it. And the reason we watched that is because I wanted to show you guys something, what these people were doing. They're just continuing on what Satan inspired Adam and Hawa to do way back at the beginning in the Garden of Eden. What was that? Well, there's the quest for eternal life. They want to become gods. You see, that's what these people, and that's what those people in the life extension program, that's what they want to do through the means of cryogenics. I think, what were some of the other terms that they use? They use cryogenics, they use transhumanism, they use nanotechnology, and I forget the other term, but these are just some of the, I believe the woman said, the watchwords that are very popular, some of the buzzwords that these people are using. These New Agers, these, what do you call them? New Age people, they're metaphysical, the metaphysics, all of these people that come up with these, you can be God. As a matter of fact, there was something interesting, that it was, I forget, there was a TV show that came on in the early 80s with Shirley MacLaine, and her and this guy, they were standing in front of the ocean, and they were saying, I am God, I am God, I am God. See, this is the lie that Satan has told people from the beginning of time, all the way up until this very day. And that video that we watched just verified that these people are still questing to become gods, you see. And as we know, that's impossible. You cannot become, well, you can become a god, but you'll never be like Yah. That's why these people have things like American Idol. They have this term called icons. Michael Jordan is a quote-unquote icon. Oprah is an icon. The Hollywood stars on the Walk of Fame, Hollywood stars. As it says in Revelations, I believe it's Revelations chapter 12, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, let's go there real quick. I believe it's Revelations chapter 12, 4, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, Revelation chapter 12, 4, and it says, and his tail draws down a third of the stars of heaven and throws them onto the earth. Well, who was those stars he was talking about? Well, he was talking about 1/3 of the heavenly host, which was the fallen angels. So it's not coincidental that these people in that wicked land they call Hollywood call themselves stars, superstars. They want to be gods. You see where we're going here? It all makes sense once you have understanding of the scriptures. You see, that's what we have to do. We have to have an understanding of the scriptures, that way we won't be swayed by all these different whims of doctrines and things like that. Because there's people out there who say something similar to what the children of Israel say, but then they put their own twist into it. You see, and that's what we're going to cover with Freemasonry and things like that, because they have some truth in them. They know the story of creation. They know the story of the fallen ones. But you see, there's an even greater lie, because they worship something they call Jabulan, and you see that's a three-headed demon, or this three-headed entity that they worship, and they learn the name of this entity once they go into I believe it's once they come out of their the third house, the third degree. What is when they become master masons, they actually learn this name, and that's the name of the god that they worship. Jah meaning Jehovah, Bul meaning Baal, and Lun is another word for Osiris. So you see, it's pretty wicked. But anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started in this. Like I said before, wicked men, seeking immortality, that's nothing new. Like we said, that was just confirmed in the video that you guys just saw. And it all goes back to that saying with Satan, you shall live forever. But in this lesson, we will go through scripture and show you the origin of this doctrine, and show just how this immortality doctrine is the driving force for most, if not all, of these evil esoteric societies. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. The first book we're going to go to is Genesis chapter 2, verses 17. And again, the scripture of choice we're going to be using is called the Scriptures. You guys feel free to use your King James versions, New NIV, New International Versions, whatever version you like. You must understand that understanding comes from the Father Yah. So regardless of what translation you use, understanding comes from the Father. So with that being said, let's go hit up Genesis chapter 2, verses 17. And let's see exactly what we got going on here. Here we go. Actually, I'm going to start at 16 and then read to 17. And Yah commanded man, saying, eat of every tree of the garden, and this is verse 17 right here, but do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die. Seems pretty cut and dry, doesn't it? Yah gives us an order. He says, hey, you can eat of all these trees right here, everything you want, but do not eat of this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17, Yah specifically forbade us to eat of this tree of knowledge because Yah already knew what was going to happen. Yah knew once we ate of that tree, then we were going to want to be more like Yah. And then, what would have stopped us from going and taking of the tree of eternal knowledge? I mean, the tree of eternal salvation, or the tree of life. You see what I'm saying? So Yah, seeing all of this, knowing all of this, this is why we were ousted out of the garden. And now we're going to go to Genesis chapter 3, and we're going to read from verses 1 through 14. Again, that is Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 14. Now, and it says, and the serpent was more crafty than any of the beasts in the field which Yah had made. And he said to the woman, is it true that Yah has said, do not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, we are to eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Yah said, do not eat it, nor touch it, lest you die. Here's something I want you guys to key in on right here. Verse 4. And the serpent said to the woman, you shall certainly not die. Verse 5. For Yah knows in the day that you eat of it, your eyes shall be open, and you shall be like Yah, knowing good and evil. And there you have it right there. That's it. That's the opening. That's the start of that whole esoteric forbidden knowledge right there. Satan turns her on to the fact that she will be like Yah, that she will know good and evil. You see, so that's important right there, that you guys store that one in your memory banks for later on in this lesson, because this is the foundation right here. This is what we're going to always, this is what it all goes back to. This initial sin right here, and Satan inspiring her to sin, and Satan basically hyping her up. You see what I'm saying? Puffing her up with pride. Hey, go ahead and eat of that forbidden fruit. And we'll verify that, in later scriptures to come. Verse 6. And the woman saw that the tree was good for food, that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree desirable to make one wise. Check that out right there. You see, now it's becoming appealing to her because of what Satan said. She saw that the tree was good to eat. She saw that, she desired it, so she's coveting it. Now she wants it, you know what I'm saying? And she saw that it was desirable to make one wise. So now she's saying like, wow, man, if I do this, I'll be like Yah. Man, what's stopping me from doing it? Let's go ahead and eat it. Check this out. And she took of the fruit and ate, and she also gave it to her husband, and he ate. Verse 7. Then the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. And they saw fig leaves, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made loin coverings for themselves. So now all of the knowledge of good and evil is coming into them. Now they know that they're naked, and now they become ashamed of their nakedness, you see. And now they're, clothing themselves up. And eventually, once we continue reading, they're going to hide themselves from Yah, because they're going to be afraid of Yah. They're going to see Yah's essence, Yah's set apart spirit. Because they did evil, they're not going to be able to stand before Yah, and that's why they hid. Check this out right here. And they heard the sound of Yah walking about in the garden in the cool of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yah among the trees in the garden. Now that's deep right there. Check this out. This is the same thing that happened when Enoch would come back to his people. They would not necessarily hide themselves, but they would be ashamed to look at him. As it says in the book of Jasher, says that they could not look at him because he had the glory and esteem of Yah on him. I'll give you another case in point. I believe it was Tuesday of this week. Tuesday or Wednesday. I myself and one of the Akotis in the organization, Amaziah, I had her son with me. We were coming from the store. And two guys, they were standing out in front of the house, smoking weed and just hanging out. And so once they saw the child walking up, because he was walking ahead of me, he was like maybe, a couple, maybe 10 and 15 so feet. He's getting ready to go in the house, and they were sitting right there at the entrance of the door. And when they saw him, the guy, he had the blunt up to his mouth, and as soon as he saw that child, he immediately, it was like the demon, you could see the demon jump off of him, man. It was so beautiful, because you saw the presence of Yah in that child, and he saw the presence of Yah in that child, whether he knew it or not, because he instantly hid that blunt. And he was like, when I walked up to him, he's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry. And you could just see the earnestness. You saw the sincerity in his eyes. He knew what he was doing was wrong. And that's the exact same thing right here. Now that Adam and Hawa had that knowledge of good and evil, now they knew what they were doing. They knew that they were wrong. That's why they hid themselves from Yah right here, as we're reading right now. Verse 9, and Yah called unto Adam and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid myself. Again, how do you know that you're naked? You know, how do you know that? Unless you've eaten of the tree of knowledge. How does a child know how to do bad? Unless that child's taught. That blows that whole lie that the Christians say that we're born sinners and all of that. That blows that out of the water right there. You're not born no sinner. You know what I'm saying? You're taught it from a child. You're taught it. Everybody who is a sinner. So that's just saying, like when the people say, oh, I was born gay, I was born like that. That's bull, and it's a lie. And you tell them to their face, you're not born that way. At some point in time in your life, a spirit's jumped into you because of something that may have happened to you, and now that spirit is on you. Nobody's ever born a certain way. If that's the case, I could be born a murderer then, right? I could be born a rapist then, right? You see that? You see how their doctrine just comes unraveled once you apply scripture to it? That's a lie. You see these? You're not born any kind of way. You're born and you learn it. Just like a child will touch a hot stove or something like that, but they learned that it's hot, so they won't touch it anymore. Most of us anyway. Some people still touch it every now and then. Like, ah. But anyway, not to get too sidetracked. And so this is what Adam is showing right here. Adam is showing that he has that knowledge. He has acquired that knowledge. And we're going to read another. We're going to read out of the pseudepigrapha here in a couple seconds. Verse 11. And he said, Who made you know that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree which I commanded you that you should not eat? And the man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me the tree. She gave me of the tree, and I ate. So you see Adam right now, he passing the buck. He's lying to Yah. You know, he's like, I didn't do it, this woman made me do it. You ever done that when you were a child? Why'd you go outside? I didn't do it. My brother made me do it. You see that? It's the same thing. We're babes in the eyesight of Yah. And it's just funny how when you read these scriptures, you can apply it to your everyday life like that. You know, that's why when we're dealing with children, when we're dealing with our children, we should have the same amount of compassion on our children that we expect the Father Yah to have on us. How many of us do that? Self-assessment. Self-assessment. I'm sorry. Now, okay. This is verse 13. And Yah said to the woman, what is this you have done? And the woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. Verse 14. And Yah said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all the livestock, and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you are to go, and eat dust all the days of your life. So with that being said, was the serpent always crawling around like that? Was the serpent always a snake-looking thing, or could it have been something else? Could have been something new. I'm going to show you guys a picture of some reptoid-looking things here in a couple seconds. But before I do that, let me read something to you guys. This is from out of the Apocalypse of Abraham. This is Abraham giving a description, or giving his account of that same situation that I just read from out of the book of Genesis. Check this out. This is the Apocalypse, the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, the Apocalypse of Abraham. This particular section that I'm reading, this is chapter 23, and I'm going to read from verses 4 to, we'll say, verse 10. Yeah. And that's on page 700. So again, that's the Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Volume 1, the Apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 23, verses 4 through 10, and that starts on page 700. And afterwards, I'm going to show you guys a picture of this reptoid-looking thing, and we'll see. We'll do some thinking, some what do they call it? Critical thinking here. And I looked at the picture, and my eyes ran to the side of the Garden of Eden, and I saw there a man, very great in height and terrible in breadth, incomparable in aspect, intertwined with a woman, who was also equal to the man in aspect and size. And they were standing under a tree of Eden, and the fruit of the tree was like the appearance of a bunch of grapes of the vine. And behind the tree was standing something like a dragon in form, but having hands and feet like a man's. And on his back was 6 wings, on the right side 6, and on the left side 6. And he was holding the grapes of the tree and feeding them. To the 2 I saw intertwined with each other. And I said, who are these 2 intertwined with each other? Or who is this between them? And what is the fruit in which they are eating? Mighty One, eternal. This is verse 10. And he said, this is the world of men. This is Adam, and this is their thought on earth. This is Eve. And the one who is between them is the impiety or impity of their behavior unto perdition, Azazel himself. Interesting. So in this account, the apocalypse of Abraham is given this vision of these 2 who are great in stature and aspect, and they were intertwined. And them being intertwined, meaning they're on the same wavelength. They're both doing evil. You see, they're both similar in thought, so they're intertwined together. They're on one accord, so to speak. And this serpent or this dragon is feeding them, what he describes as grapes on a vine. And this dragon looks like a humanoid based on the description that we just read. And so when we read in Genesis chapter 3 verses 14, Yah said, you are going to be cursed more than any other animal. You are to crawl on your belly. Interesting. Just like to throw that out there for you guys to see, so you can see where we're going with this, because later on in part 2 of this and in other lessons to come, we're going to go over, in fact, what the quote-unquote mainstream calls aliens. We know they're not aliens, but we know that they are angels, sinful angels, fallen angels. Let me go back to Genesis chapter 3 verses 21 and 22, because I want to explain something to you guys. Now check this out right here. This is Genesis chapter 3 verses 21 and 22, and it said, and Yah made coats of skin for man and his wife and dressed them. And so Yah said, see, man has become like one of us to know good and evil, and least he put his hand out and take also of the tree of life and live forever. So that was a reason for our banishment. Yah saw that ambition in our eyes. Yah saw that puffed upness, that haughtiness, so to speak, in our eyes. So Yah knew that we were, hey, what's stopping them from doing this now? You know what I'm saying? So they must go. They must be removed. Now let's read. Now let's go to the apocalypse of Adam right here. I just want to put that in there real quick, and Adam is gonna verify this in his apocalypse, or his revelation to his son Seth at the time. And here we go right here. Again, this is the apocalypse of Adam. This is volume 1 of the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, and we're on page 712. And I'm going to read the entire first chapter, which comprises of 12 verses. So let's go here. And it says, the revelation, apocalypse, of Adam taught to his son, Seth, in the 700th year, saying, listen to my words, my son, Seth. When Yah created me out of the earth along with Hawa, or Eve, your mother, I used to go about with her in a glory. In a glory. We're going to describe that word glory. We're going to do a little bit of research on that word glory here in a second. Let me finish reading this real quick. I used to go about with her in a glory which she had seen in the age from which we had come. She taught me a word. Now here it is right here. This is talking about them eating of the forbidden fruit. She taught me a word of knowledge of the eternal mighty one, Yah. And we walked around like great eternal angels, for we were loftier or haughtier than the mighty one Yah who created us, and the powers that were with him, whom we did not know. So you see, that right there again verifies what we just read in Genesis chapter 3 verses 21 and 22, when Yah said, see, man has become like one of us. This is what Adam is saying right here. They were like one of the angels now, knowing good and evil. And so Yah was like, what is going to stop them from taking of the tree of eternal life? So we got to kick them out. And this is Adam explaining it to his son Seth why they got kicked out. Now, this is the fall right here. Then Yah, the ruler of the ages and the powers, separated us wrathfully. This is them being expelled from the garden. And then we became 2 ages, and the glory in our hearts departed us. There's that word glory again. Write that down and highlight that, because we're gonna explain that in a couple seconds. Then the glory in our hearts deserted us, me and your mother of Hawa or Eve, along with the first knowledge that used to breathe within us. Now that's deep in itself right there, because think about that. You notice how these modern day scientists say we only use 10% of our brain? We only use like 3 to 7% of our brain? This is what Adam is talking about right here. We already had when before we ate of the tree of good and evil, we had Yah's knowledge, or Yah's Ruach, with us already. We didn't need to know anything. We didn't die. We weren't bothered by pestilence. We weren't bothered by birthing pains if it was up to Yah to decide for us to give birth. We weren't bothered by all of these things. Sickness. If you continue to read on, or actually if you go to the life of Adam and Eve, that's in volume 2 of the Pseudepigrapha. When Adam gets older, he cries out because he's experiencing pain. This is the very first time pain has ever been experienced. And he's like, oh, what is this that is troubling me? So you see, brothers and sisters, we didn't know nothing. We didn't know about pain or anything like that. We didn't know about sickness and death. See, that's the catch-22 when you follow Satan. Yeah, Satan will promise you the world, but then again, Satan will take it from you. You see what I'm saying? Satan promised us eternal knowledge and all of that, but what was that eternal knowledge? The knowledge of death, the knowledge of dead things, things that men consume themselves now with, the acquisition of money, the acquisition of power, lust, envy, strife. You see where we're going with this? This is that forbidden knowledge that was coming. You see? Man, it's crazy when you actually sit down and you read it and you see, and Adam is going to go into depth. He's going to describe 2 ages. This is what he's talking about in the ages. The ages that they were living in first, that was the age of immortality, the immortality of man. But once we ate of that forbidden fruit, then we came into a different age, a new age. That's what he's talking about, these 2 ages that we're reading about right here now in the apocalypse of Adam. It's 2 different ages. Now we're mortal men, and now we concern ourselves with dead things, futile things, as King Shlomo says in Ecclesiastes. As a matter of fact, he opens that book up by saying futility, futility, futility. All is futile. Think about it, man. What do people concern themselves with? Oh, this outfit look good, or oh, this look good, or oh man, I got this Rollie, I got this watch and all this, or I got rims and all of that. It's futile. Look at what the pharaohs did. The pharaohs buried themselves with all of their earthly treasures, and now where the treasures at? In some British museum, along with Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying? So Pharaoh wasn't even in his resting place. It's interesting to know, because it's the same exact thing. It's that forbidden knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And we worship gods. We worship Jesus. We worship Buddha. We worship Allah. We worship cars. You know what I'm saying? We worship buildings. Some people, their house is their whole life. They spend their whole life working on a house, and then they die and the house is torn down or sold. You see what I'm saying? It's futile. But this is the origin of the gods. And this is the origin of that forbidden knowledge. You see that? Man, this is... Alright, let's keep going. I'm sorry, I get kind of excited. But this is the 2 ages that Adam is talking about right here. I'll start again. This is verse 4. Then Yah, the ruler of the ages, and the powers separated us wrathfully. Then we became 2 ages. There it is right there. And the glory... Remember that word glory. We're going to cover that in a couple seconds. And our hearts deserted us, me and your mother Eve, along with the first knowledge, the original knowledge, the knowledge of immortality. I mean, that the knowledge of that just Yah is going to support us for everything. We didn't need this other knowledge. But not to get too far ahead of myself. That used to breathe within us. And the glory, is that word again, the glory fled from us, entering into other great ages and another great race. One that did not come from the age that we came from. I and Eve, your mother. You see, now he's breaking it down right there. Adam is saying, this new age is not, this is something that we didn't come from. That's why in Genesis chapter 1 verses 26, Yah says, let us create man in our own image. And then when they speak of the birth of Seth, they said, Seth was born in the image of his father. Now he's mortal. You see, at first when Yah created us, Yah created us, in that age, the age of immortality. But after the fall, after we ate of the forbidden fruit, then that was the birth or the start of the second age, the age of mortality. You see, Satan ain't tell you that, but Satan just said you'd be like a god. Now, getting back here, the age, okay. But the knowledge entered into the seed of the great ages. That is why I myself have called you by the name of the man who is the seed of the great race. See, he just explained it right there. Or from whom it comes. There it is. It's explained it right there. Verse 9. After those days, the eternal knowledge of the Yah of truth withdrew from me and your mother Hawa. And you see that now he's telling him, now he's explaining to him that whole knowledge of Yah is leaving from him. Now he's becoming ignorant of the fact of what happened. You see what I'm saying? He's saying that Yah's knowledge, Yah's that light, that Ruach is leaving him. Since that time we have learned about dead things. You see, you learned about things that aren't eternal anymore. Now you're seeing flowers die. You're seeing sickness. You're seeing, pestilence. Flies, bugs, and things like that. Just everything negative. Now you're learning about that. You're learning about death now because he sees himself getting older. Because at the time, now remember, this is when Adam was about 700 years old. You see, this was after his son Abel had died. This is after Cain had fled, and they're steadily repopulating the earth. So he's learning about different things. He's learning about hardships, which Yah said when Yah pronounced those punishments on Adam and Eve back in Genesis. We didn't read that. We just skipped down to verses 20 and 21. Well, no, I'm sorry, 21 and 22 when we read. But if you go back in there and you read the entire 3rd chapter, you see after Yah pronounces that curse on Satan, how Yah cursed us to toil the field. You see what I'm saying? And these are the things that Adam's learning about now. He's learning about hardship, toil, struggle, and all of that stuff. Alright. We learned about dead things, like men. Then we recognize the mighty one who created us, for we were not strangers to his powers, and we served him in fear and in subjection. And afterwards our hearts were darkened. So you see, before, they were giving reverence to Yah, everything was nice. But after them eating of the forbidden fruit, and they found out about the wrath of Yah, now they worship Yah in fear and subjection. So, there's 2 different ages going on here. It's 2 different types. It's 2 different things now. You see. Now, let's go to the book of Enoch. And we're gonna explain that whole glory thing. But first, before we do that, this is why I have this book right here, this Dictionary of Freemasonry, because of course, the wicked, they know truth. Look at this right here, all of this idolatrous worship right here. You got the compass and the square right here. The compass meaning direction, the square meaning exactness, I guess. And then you got the hammer and the plumb right there. Then you got this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-point star. Wicked. Idolatrous worship. Yah says you should not make any engraven images or anything like that. Or you should not worship, you shall not make any carved images or anything like that. Look at this right here on the back. You can just see the demonic influence on this, But anyway, we're going to cover all of that in the second part of this lesson and in later lessons. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself because I get excited sometimes and I have to calm myself down. I'll be out here talking all night. And we don't need that. But now, this particular term that the Masons use for Yah's esteem or Yah's Ruach, they call it Shekinah. And there's no coincidence that they use that word, as we're going to see here in a couple seconds. Alright, now it says Shekinah. This is page 664 in the Masonic Dictionary. And it says, a beam of glory, this beam shone upon Abel and his sacrifice, and is thought by some to have been the moving cause of Cain's envy. Yah testified in his approbation of Abraham's sacrifice by the same glory, which, like the flame of a lamp, passed between the sacrifices, the pillar of a cloud, and the clouds which filled the tabernacle and the temple were of the same nature. And according to the scriptures, they have Jehovah in here, where Yah, but they say Jehovah, and then they have Christ, which they mean Yehoshua, for they say St. Paul, what they mean Shaul, tells the Jews that these bright effulgence, I'm going to spell it out because I don't want to butcher this word, it's EFFULGENCIES, vouchsafed to their ancestors were beams of glory from the eternal Son of Yah. You see that? That's that Ruach, that's that Shekinah as they call it, but that's that light. Alright, now, that's from the worldly standpoint. Let's go ahead and let's go to the book of Enoch and let's get it from a scriptural standpoint. It's always good to, every time you go to these other books, or even when you go to like the non-canonical books or the books that aren't in the scriptures, it's always good to see if they line up with other scriptures. You see, so it's always good to have more, 1 or 2 scriptures to vouch for it. It's very important. You know, because sometimes, as we're about to see here in a couple seconds, we see that these people like to throw their own influences in here. Okay, now we're going to go to the pseudepigrapha volume 1 here. And in case you guys are wondering why I got notes and things like that written on the computer, that's why I keep gazing down at the computer every now and again. Now, this is, again, pseudepigrapha volume 1. Now we are in the 3rd Enoch, and this is chapter 5. As we know, our Aki Enoch, he had numerous writings, but unfortunately, due to the sons of Satan, they have extracted or stolen most, if not, well, you know, they stole a good deal of the books. I believe it was close to 360 or 300 some odd books that the Ak wrote. You know, so just imagine if there's that much information in these few books that we have, just imagine about the information that's not there. You know, the imagination. Just imagine about the information that they don't want you to know. Alright, now this is, again, this is 3rd Enoch, this is the 5th chapter, and we're going to read verses 1 through, verse 1 through 8. We'll stop at verse 8. And this is Yah removing the Shekinah. So, alright, now it starts off. Our Ishmael said to Metatron, Prince of the Divine Presence, Metatron, Prince of the Divine Presence, said to me, from that day the Holy One, blessed he be, banished the first man from the Garden of Eden. The Shekinah resided on a cherub beneath the tree of life. The ministering angels used to muster and come down from heaven in companies and in bands and in cohorts from heaven to execute his will. And in all the earth, the first man and his generation dwelt at the gate of the Garden of Eden. So even after Adam and Hawa were expelled from the garden, they would still go by the garden just to stand by this Shekinah, or this light, or Yah's Ruach. Let's see here. Let me go back. Where did I leave off? Okay, alright. Or the Garden of Eden. So that they might gaze at the bright image of the Shekinah, or brilliance of that Shekinah, radiated from one end of the world to the other, 365,000 times more brightly than the sun. See that right there? So this light, this ambience, this ruach that Yah possessed at the base of this tree shine more brightly than the sun, 365,000 times, in fact, brighter than the sun. And it shone from one end of the earth to the other. So this thing is pretty bright, you see. Now check this out right here. Anyone who gazed at the brightness of this Shekinah was not troubled by flies or gnats, by sickness or pain. Malicious demons were not able to harm him, and even the angels had no power over him. So at this time, you know, after Adam and Hawa, or Eve, were expelled from the garden, and after they began to repopulate the earth, we know that the fallen ones, or not the fallen ones, but the watchers, had came down with the sons of men and had, you know, were teaching them all types of wicked things. So if they were just to stand in front of this gate and stand in the light of this Shekinah, they weren't troubled by these things. They weren't troubled by pestilence. They weren't troubled by sickness or anything like that. When the Holy One, blessed he be, went out and in from the garden to Eden, and from Eden to the garden, and from the garden to heaven, and from heaven to the Garden of Eden, all gazed at the bright image of his Shekinah, and were unharmed until the coming of the generation of Enosh, who was the chief of all the idolaters in the world. And we're going to verify that when we go into the book of Jasher right here. We're going to see just in fact what it was that Enosh was doing, and what his ancestors were doing, and what we're continuing to do. Verse 7. What did the men of Enosh's generation do? They roamed the world from one end to the other, and each of them amassed silver, gold, precious stones, and pearls in mountainous heaps and piles. In the four quarters of the world they fashioned unto them idols, and each quarter they set up idols about 1,000 parasangs, and parasangs is just a unit of measurement, 1,000 parasangs, and stationed them before the idols, to the right and to the left, to serve them in the way that they served the Holy One, blessed he be, as it was written. So you see, in the time of Enosh, this is when people were, this is right around the same time, well, this is in fact the same time that the Watchers were coming down and influencing man to do evil and wicked things and worship them as gods. And there we go. And that's the origin of God worship right there. So now, right now we have established, we have the foundation of the forbidden knowledge when it comes to Adam and Hawa eating of the forbidden fruit. And now we're going to go into the origin of gods. You see, because these people weren't amassing all this gold, silver, and stuff like that for nothing. You know, they didn't know about it. Somebody had to tell them about it. And war and all of that stuff like that. About to get into it right now. So I just wanted to share that with you guys about that Sakina, that brightness, that Ruach. Check this out. This is something right here. Have you guys ever heard of someone say, wow, man, you know, that brother's he's got a glow about him, and that brother's got an aura, and that man, I just like being around that person, man. I feel a good vibe when I'm with them. Conversely, have you ever heard somebody say, man, I don't like being around dude. I get a bad vibe whenever I'm around that person. Or do you know somebody, when you just see them, it just evokes just a negative energy in you? It's the same thing. When you see somebody and when they're doing the will of Yah, you know it instantaneously. Getting back to what I was saying before with little Zuri, you know, when they see that child, a lot of children have Yah's Ruach on them. You see what I'm saying? Because they still have that innocence. So instantaneously, when that man saw that little boy walk in front of him, he saw, you know, the image of Yah. What is the image of Yah? Love, truth, righteousness, right ruling, you know, purity. That's what he saw in that child when he looked at him. And instantaneously, that demon left. And when you have the spiritual eyes to see, you can almost see that demon just jump up, because he looked like, you know how people say, man, look like you seen a ghost. That was a look he had in his face. But anyway, that is the whole breakdown on the whole Sakina thing, that, you know, that Ruach, you know, just Yah's Ruach on you. That's why, you know, like I said before, when Enoch, man, when he would come back, he would leave, and then we'd come back to the people were frightened of him, because he had this look at, man, he had Yah's Ruach on him so heavy, you know, they were ashamed that they knew what they were doing was wrong. And that's what we're about to get into right now. That's why, again, Adam and Hawa hid from Yah, because they couldn't stand in Yah's presence. Alright, so just wanted to give you guys that real quick. Now let's go to Jasher chapter 2, verses 1 through 13, and then we're going to we're gonna read about Enosh. We're gonna see just what it was that Enosh and his people did that made Yah so upset. We're gonna validate it through scripture. This ain't just what Brother Moshe saying. This is what thus says Yah. So we're gonna go ahead and break this down. Again, that's the book of Jasher, chapter 2, verses 1 through 13. And here we go. And it was in the 130th year in the life of Adam upon the earth that he again knew his wife Hawa, and she conceived and bore a son in his image, in his likeness and in his image. And I see that what he was talking about with the two ages, as we read before in the apocalypse of Adam. And she called his name Seth, saying, because Yah has appointed me another seed in the place of Abel, for Cain has slain him. And Seth lived 105 years, and he begat a son. And Seth called the name of his son Enosh, saying, because in that time the sons of men began to multiply and afflict their souls and hearts by transgressing and rebelling against Yah. So you see, that verifies what we were just reading before, how they were saying that the men went from the four corners of the earth. Why Yah's Shekinah was removed, or Yah's Ruach was removed from these people? Well, because rightfully so, they're doing wrong. They're doing wrong. Why should Yah give you his set apart spirit when you're not deserving of it? You see? And that's just like scripture saying faith without works is dead. Or if you don't work, you don't eat. That's what that scripture means. If you don't work, meaning doing the will of Yah, doing Yah's work, you don't eat. You see, and that's what we're about to see right here when they say that thorns and thistles grew up. Again, further validating what we just read. Well, if you would continue to read in the 3rd chapter of Genesis, when Yah pronounced those curses on men and women. You know, women giving birth in pain and men having to work in toil. You see what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and read. Now, and it was in the this is verse 3. And this was in the days of Enosh that the sons of men continued to rebel and transgress against Yah, to increase the anger of the Most High Yah against the sons of man. And the sons of men went out and they served gods. It says other gods, but we know what it is. They served gods. You see that? Again, the origin of the gods. Who were these gods? These gods were the watchers, of course. We're going to read about that in a couple seconds. And they forgot the Most High Yah. And that's what Adam was talking about when he did in his apocalypse, when he was talking to his son Seth. He forgot Yah. You see what I'm saying? That's what they forgot to worship Yah. You see. In those days. Okay, here we go. And they forgot Yah, who had created them in the earth. And in those days the Son of Man made images of brass and iron, wood and stone, and they bowed down and served them. Further validating what we just read in the scripture. Verse 5. And every man made his God, and they bowed down to them. And the sons of men forsook the Most High Yah in all the days of Enosh and his children. And the anger of Yah was kindled on the account of their works and abominations which they did in the earth. And the Most High Yah caused the waters of the river Gihon to overwhelm them, and he destroyed and consumed them, and he destroyed the third part of the earth. And notwithstanding this, the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways, and their hands were yet extended to do the evil in the sight of the Most High Yah. So, Yah, it's funny, man, how Yah gives us warning signs. And I'll just give you a modern day example. You know, you could be doing something wrong. You know, you could be profaning the Shabbat or something like that. And while you're out profaning the Shabbat, Yah could cause your tires to go flat. Or say if you was doing something wrong, say if you was smoking weed, and you know smoking weed is wrong because that's akin to witchcraft, because you're altering the state of your mind, you're altering the state of your being, and you leave yourself open to demonic possession. So say you out in the streets doing that, and you know about what thus says Yah, you know what's right from wrong, and you out smoking weed, then you get arrested. You see, you get arrested, but then the police let you go. See, Yah has a way of showing you, all right, okay, the noose is tightening, then you're hanging yourself, stop it. And this is what Yah is doing right here. Yah caused a small series of floods, and Yah has caused famine over, some portions of the earth. This wasn't the great flood that's to come in the days of Noah. This is just lesser floods, and this is Yah warning humans. But we don't listen. It says that they extended their hand to do evil. Verse 7. And in those days there were neither sowing nor reaping in the earth, and there was no food for the sons of men, and the famine was very great in those days. Verse 8. And the seed which they sowed in those days in the ground became thorns, thistles, and briars. Again, Genesis chapter 3, if you keep on reading, if you read that entire chapter. For in the days of Adam was this declaration concerning the earth, of the curse of Yah, which he cursed the earth, on the account of the sin which Adam sinned before the Most High Yah. See, that verifies scripture. This is the same thing in Genesis chapter 3. Verse 9. And it was when men continued to rebel and transgress against Yah, to corrupt their ways, that the earth became also corrupt. And see, we're going to validate this when we go into the book of Enoch, in the book of Enoch chapter 6, 7, and 8, a little bit later on. But now check this out right here. And Enoch lived 90 years and begat Canaan. C-A-I-N-N-A-N. Canaan. Pay attention. Remember Canaan, because we're going to go back into the pseudepigrapha and we're going to see what Canaan did just to upset Yah. We're going to read about it here. Then we're going to go into the pseudepigrapha and read it. And you can find Canaan's father in Genesis chapter 10 verses 22 of the canonical books. See how it all connects? That's how you know when something's true. It's validated. Yeah, Yah took this knowledge from us. Yah took the knowledge of the Hebrew Israelites from the physical Hebrew Israelites. But now, praise be to Yah, we're getting that knowledge back because we're turning back to the Father Yah. You say, the word never left us. It was just our knowledge of it was removed from us. And so now when we come back, like it says in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 1 through 5, when you turn back to Yah, those curses will be lifted. It is then and only then when those curses will be lifted. But let's read about Canaan here. And Canaan grew up, and he was 40 years old, and he became wise and had knowledge and skill and all wisdom. And he reigned over all the sons of men. And he led the sons of men to wisdom and knowledge. There's that word again, knowledge. Wisdom and knowledge. It's funny about that word knowledge. Francis L. Bacon, we're going to learn about this clown a little bit later on in part 2 of this lesson. But he lived in the 1600s, early 1600s, and he, again, by means of astrology, divination and things like that, and fortune telling, he foresaw America, and he called America the New Egypt. He was a Mason. You know what I'm saying? He was in one of those esoteric societies. But I bring him up because he coined the term knowledge is power. And see, that's what they get you. They say, oh man, knowledge is power, man. The more you know, the more you grow. Well, if you're learning about dead man's things, you ain't going to grow an inch. You ain't going to grow one iota in the eyesight of Yah. It's only when you pick these books up and you learn about some truth that you're going to grow both spiritually and physically. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out to you guys. For Canaan was a very wise man and had understanding in all wisdom. And with his wisdom he ruled over spirits and demons. He had the power okay, that sounds like something we're gonna read a little bit later. He had the power to cast a spell and the power to conjure up some demons too, huh? Sounds like he was pretty wicked. He was doing some funky stuff. We'll see. Verse 12. And Canaan knew by his wisdom that Yah would destroy the sons of men for having sinned upon the earth, and that the Most High Yah would in later days bring upon them the waters of a flood. And in those days Canaan wrote upon tablets of stone what was to take place in a time to come, and he put them in his treasures. So he looked like he was playing Miss Cleo, don't it? Looked like he was trying to tell the future, huh? What did y'all say about that astrology and divination and stuff like that? So you tell me, is that good knowledge, or is that forbidden knowledge? Is that forbidden fruit that we weren't supposed to eat? Ha! I heard that. All right, let's go now to I just want to throw this out here real quick. This is verse 19 and verse 20 again in Joshua chapter 2. It says, For in those days the sons of men began to trespass against Yah, and to transgress the commandments which he had commanded Adam, to be fruitful and multiply upon the earth. Be fruitful and multiply. Let's see where we're going with this. Verse 20. And some of the sons of men caused their wives to drink a draught that would render them barren, in order that they might retain their figures, and whereby their beautiful appearance might not fade. What does that sound like? The sons of men caused their wives to drink a draught that would render them barren, in order that they might retain their figures, and whereby their beauty and appearance might not fade. That sounds to me like they was trying to get them to take birth control, huh? So you can have sex and not go out and fornicate and commit a sin. Fornication is a sin, by the way. When you have sex without a covenant, that's going against Yah's commandments. And it's also going against Yah's commandments by when Yah said, be fruitful and multiply. So you see, brothers and sisters, if you don't want to have a child, don't have sex. If you don't want to catch an STD, don't have sex. If you don't want to deal with the repercussions, don't have sex. You see, the only reason Yah made that available to man and women for us to go out and procreate, for us to go out and be fruitful and multiply as Yah had commanded us. There ain't no such thing as casual sex in the kingdom. Ain't no such thing as casual sex in the eyesight of Yah. Ain't no such thing as boyfriend and girlfriend in the eyesight of Yah. You know, what they call it, friends with benefits. That's a sin. It's an outright sin. And it goes against what Yah says. So does prophylactics, birth control, condoms, the pill, the diaphragm, the shot, whatever you want to do. What makes that different than going out and getting a shot so you don't get pregnant? What's the difference? I tell you what's the difference. The era in which it's occurring. That happened way back then. This is happening right now. Brothers and sisters, it's a sin. No matter how you want to cut it, no matter how you want to try to chop it up and make it beautiful and nothing like that, it's a sin. And it's wrong. And you will be punished for it. Again, this is volume 2 of the Pseudepigrapha. This is the Jubilees. This is the 8th chapter of Jubilees, and we're only going to read 4 verses in Jubilees. So it's Jubilees chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. And we're going to dig a little bit deeper on Canaan and see exactly what it was that he did to upset Yah. Excuse me. And it reads, And on the 29th Jubilee, in the first week, at its beginning, Arpachshad, there's the that name is referenced in Genesis chapter 10, verses 22. So this is where Canaan's lineage come from. Arpachshad took a wife, and her name was Rashiah, daughter of Susan, daughter of Elam, as a wife, and she bore a son for him in the 3rd year of that week, and he called him Canaan. So there you go, right there. That's how this story is tied in to the canonical books, because Arpachshad is referenced in Genesis chapter 10 verses 22, and Arpachshad is the father of Canaan, you see. And in Genesis chapter 10 verses 22, that's just going over the lineages, the different sons of Noah. And so here we go. And she bore to him a son in the 3rd year of that week, called him Canaan. And the child grew, and his father taught him writing. And he went forth in order that he might seek a place where he could build a city. And he found a writing which the ancestors engraved on stone. The ancestors, his predecessors. He found this stone that they had wrote on. What did they write on it? Let's see. And he read what was in it, and he transcribed it, and he sinned because of what was written in it. Okay, well, what was written in it? Let's see. Since there was in it the teachings of the watchers, by which they used to observe the omens of the sun and moon and stars within all the signs of the heaven. And he copied it down, but he did not tell about it, because he feared to tell Noah about it, lest he be angry with him because of it. You see that right there? That's deep. See, now this is after the flood had happened right here. This is Canaan. This is Noach's like grandson. This is later on. This is coming from the sons of Ham, Shem, and Japhet right here. These are Noah's grandsons, who we're going to read about in later days when Noach prayed to Yah, praying to bind these troubling spirits of his people. But I read you that because I just wanted to show you that he had got this from his ancestors prior to him, and he knew it was a sin. He knew that astrology and astronomy and all of the workings of the heavens, to know that and to use it in ways, he knew that that was evil. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with looking into the heavens and observing the stars. It becomes wrong when you use it to try to tell the future. You use the stars, you say, oh, okay, on this date, this astrological date, I'm going to do this, like the Egyptians did, like the Mayans did, and like these modern day astrologers do. See where we're going with this? It's all the same lie. It's all the forbidden knowledge, and it all comes from the gods. You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing right there. You just have to be careful in what it is that you do. Like we're going to read here later on. Well, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm going to get ahead of myself. But I just wanted to throw that out there. You guys see where we're going with this. Again, this lesson is called The Origin of the Gods, Forbidden Knowledge. Now we're finding out where that forbidden knowledge came from. We figured out where the gods, who these gods were, and who these gods are, because they're still here. And then the second part of this lesson, we're going to go to the modern day gods. Now we're just getting the old gods out of the way. So now, with that being said, let's talk about these watchers here. Since we brought up the watchers in the book of Jasher, now we're going to go to the book of Enoch right here. And again, we're going to read Enoch chapters 6, 7, and 8. And we're going to go to chapter 69 as well, and go to verses 1 through 12 in chapter 69. But first things first, let's get this going. Let's talk about these watchers, these gods who got men to worship them as gods. In addition to the fallen ones. Now let's not get it twisted. The fallen ones and the watchers, they're two different sets of angels. The fallen ones came down with Satan. He was that 1/3 of the heavenly host. They were that 1/3 of the heavenly host that Satan took down with them. The watchers came a little bit later. The watchers came about when the sons of men were, upon the earth, and they had multiplied. And these watchers lusted after these women. I'm going to stop and say this right here. Now, this is nothing chauvinistic. This is nothing lusty. But we have beautiful women. There are beautiful women walking the face of this earth. And I say that to say this. If the beauty of these women could get angels to sin, brothers, you have got to exercise some caution when you're out there in the world. Trust me, I know. I am a man. You know what I'm saying? And I am attracted to women. But because I made a covenant with my wife, and because I know that to lust after women, I know that is wrong, because we're going to read right here in a second. We're going to read what it got these watchers to do. Now just bear that in mind, man. The woman's beauty was so great that it got these angels to sin. It got these angels to come out of heaven to come down here and have sex with these women. So brothers, hey man, and now it's like 10 times worse, because you can't even turn on the TV without seeing booty. You can't even turn on the TV without seeing sex. Even in the children's shows, they're advertising sex. This is how far we have come as a people, brothers and sisters. This is how far we have sunk. You know what I'm saying? This is how bad it's gotten. And who is in charge of it? Well, it's the sons of Satan, obviously the ruling class society members here on this earth, who have swore in allegiance to Satan and his followers, meaning the 1/3 of the heavenly host who he brought down here. We gave over that. taught them how to make swords, taught them how to make knives, taught them how to make battle axes, all instruments and weapons of war, arrows, clubs, all of that stuff right there. That was some of the things he taught them. Then he taught them metallurgy or alchemy, the working of metals. That's heavy in masonry too. A lot of masons are alchemists. They just don't tell you about it. And all alchemy is you can take regular metals, like raw metals and stuff like that, and you can turn them into gold. You see what I'm saying? Magic. Pretty much. Wickedness. And the working of bracelets and ornaments and the use of autonomy. So he taught them, you know what I'm saying, how to make, bracelets out of metal, your gold jewelry. Not everybody want to walk around with the big dookie ropes, you know what I'm saying, and big earrings. That's what was taught right there. So when you see all of these rappers, all of these monkeys walking around on stage, you see these fools walking around with all of this gold, and they're killing these children, in these gold mines, and they're killing these children over these blood diamonds. Now you see where it originated from. And the same thing was going on back in the day. You see what I'm saying? The same thing that was going on in the back of the day is the same thing that's going on now. You see? Ain't nothing different. Scripture say ain't nothing new under the sun. So you think what you think that you the first person to discover platinum? Oh man, they had platinum and gold and all of that stuff way before any rapper did. Right here in Scripture. And then the beautifying of the eyelids. So they were taught vanity. So they were taught vainness. You know what I'm saying? Sisters, brothers. You know what I'm saying? We spend all of our time in the barbershop and beauty shop. You know what I'm saying? Sisters getting their eyebrows arched. Brothers getting their eyebrows arched. You know what I'm saying? Sisters in the beauty shop perming their hair and doing all of this crazy stuff, man. You spend all of that time on frivolous things. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with just wearing your hair natural? Oh, my hair is too hard to manage. My hair is nappy and all of that. Did Yah or did Yah not curse us to work and to toil from the beginning, from the onset? Because of what? You want that forbidden knowledge. So don't blame Yah. Don't get mad because you got to do a little work with yourself. You know what I'm saying? You just want to go out the easy way and go, perm your hair and fix your eyes and all of that stuff. It's funny, somebody told me this a long time ago. It says, and, women walk around with fake eyes, contacts, fake nails, fake hair, implants, all of these different augmentations and mutilations of the body, and then they turn around and say they want a real man. I just thought that was particularly funny, man, because it's like it's true. And then you get these guys out here talking about they don't want no gold digger, but the first thing you do when you see a chick is you go out there fronting and counting your little money that you got in your pocket, or you walk around here with these $5 pants on and these $200 shoes, but you don't want a gold digger. You see what I'm saying? You're riding around with your car on your rims and all of that stuff, with your music so loud. Don't tell me you just like your music loud. You're doing it to attract attention. That's why you do these things. That's why you wear, the expensive jeans. That's why you wear the expensive clothes, because you're attracting. You want to attract attention. You know what I'm saying? Now, don't sit there and tell that lie saying, well, I do it because I like it. No, you don't. Because like we said in the beginning, children don't know these things. You're born without this knowledge. You only know this knowledge. People teach you futility. People teach you this meaningless garbage. Like you gotta have a pair of Jordans. You were taught that. You never liked that. You were taught to perm your hair because your hair was nappy. You were taught to put those contacts in your eyes because you were ashamed of your eye color. You were taught all of that garbage. So don't tell that lie saying that you do it just because you like it. You do it because of a feeling of inferiority. That's why you do it. Because what's being shown on TV, they show you that straight hair is good hair. They show you that light skin is good. They show you that, that big lips is ugly. They show you that a big broad nose is ugly. You know what? That's a sin, because you're going against how Yah created you. You saying that Yah didn't create you perfect. And you want to change yourself. Getting big breasts. And brothers going out getting penis enlargements. What type of foolishness is that? You see what I'm saying? But we've come so far, we've strayed so far from the truth that we don't even know that up is down and left is right now. We don't know that the world is backwards. We don't know that this world was given into the hands of Satan. That's why rapists and killers and murderers are walking around right now. We don't know that. And then you go to this phony synagogue of Satan, i.e. the church, or i.e. the Jewish synagogue. You know what I'm saying? You go to these places of worship. It's so funny. If churches and all of these religions was really doing good, you know what I'm saying? Why you have churches in the community where half the people don't even live in that community, and you got a wino sleeping right out in front of the church, but you won't open up the food pantry to give them no food? What type of wickedness is that, man? We live in a place where, in this country, they're more worried about little 14 and 15-year-old Afghan girls who are married, you know what I'm saying, to husbands having children, than you, Hebrew woman, who is 13 and 14-year-old having premarital sex. So you're fornicating. And you getting out here pregnant at 13, 14 years. They don't even care about you. They going over halfway across the world trying to fight for Afghanistan and all these other third world countries fighting for the rights of those little girls. And they don't even care about you, Hebrew woman. How does that make you feel? But the people who do care about you, Yah's people who care about you, you shun them. I'm sorry for getting off on the rant, y'all, but it's just, I get passionate about this because this is what we do. This is our truth. You know what I'm saying? I'm proud of this. I'm proud of my hair. I'm proud of this heritage, this Hebrew heritage. And if you're not proud of it, then I pray Yah increases your understanding. But now, getting back to that whole vanity thing, verse 2, and there arose much unholiness, and they committed fornication, because they were taught birth control. And I'm going to read here in chapter 69, they were taught abortion, how to smite the embryo. But we're going to read that in a minute. For all you Planned Parenthood people, how in the world you going to plan a parenthood? You know what I'm saying? How you going to plan anything without Yah, first and foremost, let alone a doggone parenthood? That in itself is an oxymoron. And y'all President Barack Obama is a big proponent of Planned Parenthood. That man's anti-Yah. He's so anti-Yah, it don't make any sense. But anyway, we're going to get on him in the second part of this lesson. And they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and they became corrupt in all their ways. Verse 3, and Semyaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. Wudan and voodoo sound like to me. And Armoros taught the resolving of enchantments. So you got one dude telling you how to cast a spell, and you got another god telling you how to resolve that spell. And Barakael taught astrology. So there you go right there. Now you putting, oh, that's Scorpio right there. I'm a Scorpion. I was born under the astrological sign of Scorpio. No, you're not, fool. No, you're not. You are not. There is no such thing, and that does not make any sense. And if you're doing that stuff, I gotta read my horoscope. That's what they're talking about right here. That's the wrongness about it. How you gonna tell somebody future just by how the stars is lining up? That ain't right. And it's anti-Yah. This is cut and dry as that, brothers and sisters. Hey. But hey, let's keep on. Kokibel taught the constellations. Ezekiel taught the knowledge of clouds. And so that's basically like meteorology and things like that, you know, how to tell the weather and stuff like that. Forecasting. A lot of farmers have what they call a farmer's almanac. That's what that falls under right there, meteorology and studying various weather patterns and things like that, you know, throughout the seasons. And Arachiel, the signs of the earth. That's geology. And Shamsiel, the signs of the sun, you know, solar and lunar processions. And Suriel taught the courses of the moon, so you got solar and lunar processions right there. Oh, that's a new moon. Oh, okay, this is the lunar eclipse. Oh, okay, this is this. The gods must be doing that. The gods must not be pleased. It's a solar eclipse. See where I'm going with this? There's nothing wrong with appreciating nature as long as you know that it's a creation of Yah, and that Yah put angels and Malachim in charge of these things. It's when you start associating with these specific gods, like you got the god of war, you got the god of love, you got Mercury, the messenger of the gods, you got Jupiter, you got Saturn, all of these different gods. It's when you start doing that and you start giving reverence or praise to these gods, that's when it becomes wrong. Verse 4, and as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. So now, I was telling you that about that abortion thing, and how abortion is just a sin, but to back it up, let's always back it up with scripture. Let's now jump to chapter 69, and let's go to, we'll do verses 4, actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll start at chapter 4, and we'll go from verses 4 through 12. And again, this is the book of Enoch, chapter 69, verses 4 through 12. We just got done reading the book of Enoch, chapters 6, 7, and 8. We were establishing who the gods were. Now we have the origin of the gods. Those are the watchers. You know, those are the ones who have come down. And, you know, man, the lust for these women was so strong, they came down out of heaven. They forfeited their spot in heaven to come down and satisfy a fleshly desire. That's all lust is. You're craving the flesh. You know, that's all lust is. And that's why we as Hebrew men and Hebrew women, we have to conquer that fleshly desire. We have to be on the spiritual. And interestingly enough, the Egyptians have something, and the Greeks and Romans have it too, I believe. It's something called the Sphinx. And now what this Sphinx is, it has the body of a lion, but it has the head of a man. You know, the pharaoh with his little priestly garb or whatever it is on there. And what that symbolizes is the animalistic part. You know, the body of the lion is symbolic of your animalistic nature. You know, the desires of the flesh, so to speak. You know, you want to eat too much or want to have sex, or, you know, whatever it is that, you know, your flesh desires, or drinking. Now, the head of the god or the pharaoh, which is what you're prescribing to be, what you're trying to be, is, you know, the head of the man. That symbolizes you overcoming or suppressing that animalistic desire, and you arising to a higher conscious. That's what that animal. That's what that animal is symbolic of. It's interesting that they have that there, you know. But as we saw, you know, when you crossbreed and you mixing stuff like that, man, it's a sin, because y'all said don't mix animal and human. So you don't need any half animals, half men running around. But anyway, this is Enoch chapter 69, verses 4. And the name of the first was Yaquan, or Jaquan. That is, the one who led astray all the sons of Yah, and brought them down to earth, and led them astray through the daughters of men. Led them astray to the daughters of men, I should say. Verse 5. And the second was named Asbael. He imparted the holy sons of Yah of evil counsel, and led them astray, so that they defiled their bodies with the daughters of men. And the third was named Gadriel. It is he who showed the children of man the blows of death. So here we go right here. This could be the advent or the invent of martial science, martial arts. You know, the different death blows and things like that, fighting, so to speak. And he led astray Hawa, and showed the weapons of death to the sons of man, the shield and the coat of mail. Now what the coat of mail is, if you guys are familiar with like the Knights of the Crusade, they look like chains wrapped together, a series of like chains. That's what that is. So armament, basically. And the swords for battle, and all the weapons of death to the children of men. Again, so you got another God here teaching people war making. Verse 7. And from his hand they proceeded against those who dwell on the earth from that day and forevermore. And we still got war going on to this day. Verse 8. And the fourth was named Penumiel, and he taught the children of men the bitter and sweet, and he taught them all the secrets of their wisdom. Verse 9. And he instructed mankind in writing with ink and paper, and thereby men sinned from eternity to eternity until this day. Now check this out right here. Verses 10 and verses 11 are kind of deep, because this goes back to what Adam was saying after the fall, when he was given his apocalypse or his revelation to his son Seth. Now, verse 10, it says, For men were not created for such a purpose, but to give confirmation. For men were not created for such a purpose, to give confirmation to their good faith with pen and ink. See what I'm saying? We weren't here to be writing all of this foolish stuff, all of these, making scary books and that's frivolous. That stuff's wasting your time. Romance novels and all of that stuff. We weren't originally put here for all of this futile stuff that we as men and women do today. We weren't put here to get a job at a Fortune 500 company and go work for IBM and or flip burgers at McDonald's. We were put here. I'm going to read it right here. For men were created exactly like Malachim, or like angels, to the intent that they should continue pure and righteous, and death, which destroys everything, could not have taken them. But through their knowledge, the pursuit of that fallen angel, that forbidden knowledge, this power... But through their knowledge, they are perishing, and through this power, it is consuming me. So I'm going to read that one more time, because that's real deep right there, what he's saying. He's saying people weren't put here to do all of this frivolous stuff. Brothers and sisters, you wasn't put here to be no superstar. You wasn't put here to be like Young Jeezy and 50 Cent and all them people, man. 50 Cent and them wasn't even put here to do that. We weren't put here to be Hollywood movie stars and to be the richest man in the earth and all of that stuff. We weren't put here to do that. This Enoch is explaining what we were originally here for, and what Adam was saying in his apocalypse to his son Seth. This is again further verifying Scripture. It says, For men, this is verse 10 again, for men were not created for such a purpose, to give confirmation to their good faith with pen and ink. You know, we wasn't here to write about all the good stuff we did. We wasn't here to do none of this frivolous stuff. For men were created exactly like angels. That's what Yah said in Genesis chapter 1 verses 26. Let us create man in our image. This is what we were created here for, brothers and sisters, to give reverence to Yah, to worship Yah. You know what I'm saying? That's why we were put here initially. To the intent that they should continue pure and righteous, and death which destroys everything could not have taken hold of us, but through this their knowledge, that wanting, that covetousness, that wanting to know more than we should, you know what I'm saying? Because of that, they are perishing, and through this power it is consuming me. So because of our acquisition of this knowledge, which Satan didn't tell us this was going to happen, Satan only said you would be like Yah, you going to know everything. Didn't tell you that you were going to die from it, and you were going to experience all of this pain and this futility. Now, verse 12, and this is what I wanted to read to you guys, because this is the verse that's talking about abortion right here. It says, and the fifth was named Kazdijah. This is the one who showed the children of men all the wicked smitings of spirits and demons, and the smitings of the embryo in the womb, that it might pass away. Wow. So Planned Parenthood, abortions is a sin, according to what Yah say. Man, that's murder. That's actually murder. So again, well, Brother Moshe, what if something happened to me? What if I get raped? Hey, so be it. It was Yah's will. You know what I'm saying? Let that child live. Who are we to decide who lives and dies? Well, Brother Moshe, what if I was raped by my father? What if I was a victim of incest? Hey, we have to learn to put it in Yah's hands. Because us in our own understanding, we know nothing. We know nothing at all. As a matter of fact, this scripture wasn't in here, but man, Yah is moving me to do this, man. This was let me see here. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I just want to share this real quick. Where is that? It's like right here in the beginning. I'm going to go to the book of Ezra real quick. Okay, here it is right here. Now, this is the fourth book of Ezra. This is in volume 1 of the Pseudepigrapha. This is page 529. And the reason I want to read this is because we try to understand everything that Yah does. We try, and again, because of our ego and our arrogance, we think that we can fathom what Yah is doing. And so to answer the question about, this question popped into my head, like somebody might say, well, what if that person was raped? Or what if this, or what if that, So I just want to read this just to give you a bit of understanding on how Yah thinks and what Yah feels. This particular story right here, this is the fourth book of Ezra. Again, it's 529 in the volume 1? Yeah, volume 1 of the Old Testament Pseudepigrapha. This is right before Ezra and the children of Israel are coming back into Israel. This is after the Babylonian occupation of Israel. So the Israelites are coming back in, and this could be referenced in the book of Ezra in the 10th chapter. When Ezra is when they're getting ready to come back into the land. Now Ezra, fasted and prayed to Yah for understanding on why the children of Israel were allowed to be taken into captivity, and why the children of Israel are being allowed to go through what they go through. Just like some of you brothers and sisters out there might wonder, like, man, why are we going through this? Why are we being cursed? Check this out. This is Uriah, the angel Uriah. This is Uriah's reply to Ezra's plea. And the angel that had been sent to me, whose name was Uriah, answered and said to me, your understanding has utterly failed regarding this world. Do you think that you can comprehend the ways of the Most High? Just listen to this. I'm not even going to commentate on it. I'm just going to read it. Then I said, yes, my master. And he replied to me, I have been sent to show you 3 problems. If you can solve one of them for me, just one, I will also show you the way which you desire to see, and will teach you why the heart is evil. And I said, speak on, my master. And he said to me, go weigh for me the weight of fire, or measure for me a measure of wind, or call back for me the day that is in the past. And I answered and said, Who of those that have been born can do this, that you ask me concerning these things? And he said to me, if I had asked you how many dwellings are in the heart of the sea, or how many streams are at the source of the deep, or how many streams are above in the firmament, or how many exits of hell, or the lake of fire, or which are the entrances of paradise, or heaven, perhaps you would have said to me, I never went down into the deep, nor has yet into the lake of fire, neither have I ever ascended into heaven. But now I have asked you only about fire, wind, and the day, things through which you have passed through, and without which you cannot exist. And you have given me no answer about them. And he said to me, you cannot understand the things which you have grown up. Basically, he's saying you can't even understand something you see every day. How then can your mind comprehend the way of the Most High? And how can one who is already worn out by the corrupt world understand incorruption? When I heard this, I fell to my face and said to him, it would be better for us to have not been here than to have come here and live in unholiness and to suffer and not understand why. So basically what that angel was saying, what Uriah was saying was, how can you even begin to fathom what Yah has for plan for this world when you can't even understand something about what you see every day? He said, measure for me the measure of fire, or gather for me some wind. You know what I'm saying? Do some stuff that you can see. And then I'll tell you about why everything is going on the way it's going on. Brothers and sisters, I read that so we may understand and humble ourselves. Maybe it's not meant for you to know everything. Maybe it's not meant for you to know why it's a sin to eat pork. Maybe you should just not eat pork. Maybe it's not meant for you to understand how a chicken is clean, but a pig ain't. Maybe it's meant for you just to accept the fact that Yah said the bird is clean and you can eat it. Don't try to come up with some grand understanding on why something is. Maybe it's not meant for you to understand why that particular event happened to that child, allowing her to have a baby, maybe by her father, something like that. I'll give you a case in point. In Melbourne, Australia, about a week ago, a man was arrested for fathering 4 children with his daughter for 30 years. We don't know why that happened, but it had to happen. It happened for a reason, because it was the will of Yah. Who are we to question Yah's will is what I'm saying, brothers and sisters. It's that same arrogant attitude that got us ousted out of the paradise. It got us ousted out of the garden. So we got to leave it at the doorstep when we come in this understanding. You got to leave pride, arrogance, all the workings of the world. You got to leave that crap at the door, or you ain't gonna never grow spiritually in Yah. You could be a proud preacher. You know what I'm saying? You could be a proud Jew. You know what I'm saying? You could be a proud Buddhist, monk, Satanist, Mason. I'm proud of Masonry. I'm a proud American. You can be a proud American, you see? But Yahushua was humble. Read Matthew chapter 6, the ways of a servant. That's how we get down at Israelite heritage. That's what we do. That's how all workers and doers of Yah's will get down. That's how the prophets got down. That's how Yahushua got down. And if you want to get in the kingdom, that's how you got to get down. You got to be humble. No arrogance. But I just wanted to read that, man, because that Ruach was telling me, man, just go there. Just read that scripture. So, man, hey, may Yah increase our understanding on that. Sometimes we just got to go with the flow. Sometimes it's not meant for you to understand why and how. It's just meant for you to do. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Abraham probably wondered, why do I have to sacrifice my only son? But he did it. Or he attempted to, until Yah brought the righteous Malachim down and stopped him. Yahushua said, Father, if it's your will, let this cup pass me. You know what I'm saying? But hey, but if it's your will, then your will shall be done. It was Yah's will, and Yahushua made the ultimate sacrifice for us. So brothers and sisters, let's not try to worry about how it works. Let's just worry about that it's working, and let's do it. Alright, let's go to Jasher chapter 4. We're going to read the entire 4th chapter of Jasher. Alright, and this right here, this is excuse me. Again, Jasher chapter 4 in the book of Jasher. And it says, all the days that Enoch lived upon the earth were 365. So this is after the death of Enoch. And Enoch had ascended into heaven. And when Enoch had ascended into heaven. Not true. Enoch is not in heaven, brothers and sisters. We know that. If you go to our Words of the Week section of www.hebrewisraelites.org, Brother Obadiah did an outstanding breakdown about the soul and the spirit. And by scripture, the Ak broke down that when you die, your Ruach goes back to Yah. You his body dies, your spirit goes back to Yah to be resurrected again in the first or second resurrection. You see, Enoch ain't in heaven chilling with Yah. Yahushua is the only person who walked as a physical man and ascended back into heaven. When it says that Enoch went up to heaven with Yah, that's not what it meant. It didn't mean that. All right, now. All the kings of the earth rose and took Methuselah his son and anointed him, and they caused him to reign over them in place of their father. And Methuselah acted uprightly in the sight of Yah, as his father Enoch had taught him, and likewise during the whole of his life taught the sons of men wisdom and knowledge and the fear of Yah, and he did not turn from the good way, either to the right or to the left. Now that part right there in itself is deep, because remember what we read back in here about Canaan in chapter 2 of Jasher? It said he taught men wisdom and knowledge, but he was wicked. And now conversely, we have Methuselah, a righteous man, teaching men wisdom and knowledge and the fear of Yah. See that? That's the difference between that forbidden knowledge and the knowledge that Yah gonna give you. You know what I'm saying? I know about constellations and stuff like that. I know about meteorology, as do most brothers and sisters in this organization and throughout the world, man. People know about things, but it's when you start, attributing things to God. It's like, oh, that's the God of nature moving the earth. Oh, Mother Earth is in charge. Oh, Father Time and all of this stuff. That's when it gets wrong. Excuse me, and that's when it turns into sin. You see what I'm saying? And by the same token, I would never go out to an astrologer or some, soothsayer or some voodoo shaman, to cast a spell on somebody, and I would never cast a spell on anybody. You see what I'm saying? Because you can pronounce a curse on somebody and say, man, I hope you die. Something as simple as that is pronouncing a curse, brothers and sisters. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. That is the difference between the knowledge and wisdom that Methuselah taught as opposed to the knowledge and wisdom that Canaan taught. But in the latter days of Methuselah, the son of man, turned from Yah. They corrupted the earth. They robbed and plundered each other, and they rebelled against Yah, and they transgressed, and they corrupted their ways, and would not hearken to the voice of Methuselah, but rebelled against him. So here we go again, this influence by the gods, is get these people going again. And the Most High Yah was exceedingly wroth against them, and the Most High continued to destroy the seed in those days, so that there was neither nor sowing nor reaping in the earth. For when they sowed the ground in order that they might obtain food for their support, behold, thorns and thistles were produced, which they did not sow. So you see, again, going back to Genesis chapter 3, that quest for the forbidden knowledge, man, worshiping gods. What is going to happen? Thorns and thistles is going to grow up. And that's the same today, brothers and sisters. When you're doing wrong, wrong is going to come to you. That's exactly what that scripture's saying right there. See what I'm saying? They needed food. They needed to go out there. They went out there and worked the field. Nothing good came to them. By the same token, when you out here, say you out here doing wicked, and you out here doing unrighteous works and things like that, and you find yourself caught up in a bad situation, you know what I'm saying? That's that curse that Yah pronounces on you. Young women, take this case. You out there fornicating, having premarital sex, whoring basically, you know what I'm saying? Then that curse that Yah pronounced upon you, that you will give birth in pains. You get pregnant and you have a child. You see what I'm saying? It's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing the fact that you had a child, but you're cursed because you're going to go through the pains of labor and to have that child, and then you have to raise that child. Men, by the same token, ox, you know what I'm saying? Here in the United States, you go out slanging and banging, you know what I'm saying? And you go out and you get a girl pregnant. Now you have the duty to go out and support that child. You see what I'm saying? And that's it right there. You got to go out there and work, and it's hard for a Hebrew man to go out here and find a job. Those are your thorn and thistles. You know what I'm saying? When you go out there, especially if you're not in Yah. If you in Yah, you know what I'm saying? Yah is going to take care of you. You see what I'm saying? But you're out there in the world, and then you get a girl pregnant, you have to, you know what I'm saying? Not even just with, pregnancy and things like that. I was just using that as an example. But say if you're just not living right and you're out there in the world and you try to get a job, be like, man, I can't get a job for nothing, man. You ain't got Yah in your life. You know what I'm saying? You out there living in the world. You out there worshiping the gods of the gods of nowadays. You know what I'm saying? You idolizing Tyler Perry, Wesley Snipes, and all that. When you call these people idols and you look up to these people and all of that, you look up to people who aren't men and women of Yah, then you're idolizing. So you're God worshiping. You see what I'm saying? It's that simple. And when you're out there in the world doing those bad things, you not having a job, you struggling, if you got a job, you know what I'm saying? Those are your thorn and thistles in these days. That's how it correlates to nowadays. You know what I'm saying? That's just it. Verse 7. And still the sons of men did not turn away from their evil ways, and their hands were still extended to do evil in the eyesight of Yah. And they provoked the Most High with their ways. And the Most High Yah was very wroth, and repented that he had made man. Look at that, y'all. We get Yah upset to the point where Yah was like, I'm sorry I ever made y'all. Ain't that something? Boy, that's got to be some wicked stuff, because, you know, especially when you know the truth. You know, imagine how hurtful it is for Yah to see someone who knows that they're a Hebrew Israelite, who knows the ways of Yah, who knows the truth, and then to go out back in the world. Imagine how bad Yah feels. You know what I'm saying? Imagine how bad you would feel if, you know, you raise your child up, you know, you show them all the good things, you know what I'm saying? And then you let them go out, and then they just go out and do the totally exact opposite of what you want them to do. Imagine how hurtful that would hurt you to your heart. You know what I'm saying? Or when you see your child, you know, you teach your child the right thing, and then they grow up and then, you know, do something abominable like come home as a homosexual or something like that. Imagine the hurt that you feel. Well, if my child want to be gay, then let him be gay. No. That's wrong. It's a sin. It says in Scripture. You know what I'm saying? The man should not lie with the man, and the woman should not lie with the woman. So I can't say that. You know, again, you're not born that way. Some experience, something has happened to you. That demon has gotten on you some kind of way, and now it's manifested itself to the physical. That's all it is. So just imagine how hurt Yah is when we, especially when we know that we Israel, we know the names of Yah, and you go back to worshiping Jesus, or you go back to worshiping Allah or Buddha or something like that. Just imagine how hurt Yah. It's like spitting in Yah's face. Verse 8. And he thought to destroy and annihilate them, and he did so. And in those days, Lamech, the son of Methuselah, was 160 years old. Seth, the son of Adam, died. So now we get into the death of Seth now. And as we see in the pattern here, we're seeing all of the righteous people who served Yah and who were worshiping Yah in spirit and in truth. Yah is allowing them time to die off before Yah brings out this punishment. Verse 10. And all the days that Seth lived were 912 years, and he died. And Lamech was 180 years old when he took Ashuma, the daughter of Elisha, the son of Enoch, his uncle, and she conceived. And at the time the sons of men sowed the ground, and little food was produced, yet the sons of men did not turn from their evil ways. You still want to worship the gods, still want to be out there riding them rims, still want to become a movie star and all of that stuff. And they trespassed and rebelled against Yah. Verse 13. And the wife of Lamech conceived and bore him a son at that time, at the revolution of the year. And Methuselah called his name Noach, saying, the earth was in his days at rest and free from corruption. And Lamech his father called his name Menachem, saying, this is one that shall comfort us in our works and miserable toil in the earth which Yah had cursed. Verse 15. And the children grew up and was weaned, and he went in the ways of his father Methuselah, perfect and upright with Yah. And all the sons of men departed from the ways of the Most High in those days, and they multiplied upon the face of the earth with the sons and daughters, and they taught one another their evil practices, and they continued sinning against the Most High. So you still have this continual God worship. You still have this transferring of forbidden wicked knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Further provoking Yah, you see what I'm saying? And angering Yah to the point that Yah is going to bring about a great destruction. And every man made unto himself a god. They robbed and plundered every man his neighbor, as well as his relative. And they corrupted the earth, and the earth was filled with violence. And their judges, now these are the watchers that they're talking about, and their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, and took their wives by force from their husbands, according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, and the beasts of the fields, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species, in order to provoke the Most High Yah. And Yah saw the whole earth was corrupt, for all flesh was corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and animals. And so you see, that's just further verifying what we read in the book of Enoch, chapter 6, 7, and 8, where the sons of men went in mixing animals and things like that, and the watchers coming down and having sex with the human wives. Verse 19. And the Most High said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from the man to the birds of the air, together with the cattle and beasts that are in the field. I repent that I made them. Verse 20. And all the man that walks in the ways of the Most High Yah died in those days, before the Most High brought evil upon man, which he had declared. For this was from the Most High Yah, that they should not see evil, which Yah spoke of concerning the sons of men. And Noah found grace in the sight of the Most High Yah, and Yah chose him and his children to raise up a seed from them upon the face of the whole earth. So you see, Yah waited till all of the righteous men died before he destroyed the earth with the great flood right here, which is particularly interesting because, you know, it says in Scripture that you may find safety in the grave. So brothers and sisters, we can correlate that to modern day times. If you have to die for this, you know, hey, as long as you died in the name of Yah, as long as you dying for the Most High Yah, yeah, you say hallelujah. And you have to die with dignity and honor, because like it says in Revelations, that cowards will be the first to go into the lake of fire. You know, I always harken back to in the Apocrypha, in the second Maccabees, how, you know, the woman watched her children die, but she told them, you had better not give in to this king. And this was right around the time of the Roman emperor, or the Roman ruler Antiochus Epiphanes, you know, when Jerusalem was sacked. And we were ousted out for good. Ever since then, we've never been back to our land. You know, at least not in the capacity that we were used to as, you know, being sovereign, you know, Hebrew Israelites over there. Now you got a bunch of wicked liars over there who call themselves Jews. You know, they're the ones that are spoken about in Revelations 2:9 and Revelations 3:9, the synagogue of Satan. But I say all that to say this, you know, Yah offered us that grace period of 120 years, like it says in Scripture right here. It says, I shall not strive with man forever, and they will have 120 years. You see, so Yah gave us that grace period, and Yah gave all those righteous, you know, the righteous servants time to die off, so they wouldn't see this grave destruction of the planet Earth. And that is, of course, the story of the flood, which is covered in the book of Jasher, covered in the Scriptures, talked about in the book of Enoch, talked about in all the pseudepigraphas. So there you go. All right, now let's go on to Jubilees, the 10th chapter here, and this is after the great flood, and this is Noah saying a prayer on the behalf of his grandchildren. And again, his grandchildren are Canaan and all of those guys, because they again found tablets from their ancestors, and they found out that what the Watchers were doing and all of this stuff, and it's just a whole bunch of crazy things. And they're always going back to, you know what I'm saying, they're going back to this secret, esoteric, you know, forbidden knowledge type deal. So this is again, this is what is this? Volume 2, Old Testament Pseudepigrapha, Book of Jubilees, chapter 10, page 75, and we're going to read chapter 10, verses 1 through 14. Alright, and it reads, In the third week of that Jubilee, the polluted demons began to lead astray the children of Noah's sons, and to lead them to folly and to destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him about the demons who were leading astray and blinding and killing his grandchildren. And he prayed before the Most High Yah, and he said, Yah of the spirits which are in all flesh, who has acted mercifully with me and saved me and my sons from the waters of the flood, and did not let me perish as you did the children of perdition, because great was your grace upon me, and great was your mercy upon my soul. Let your grace be lifted upon my sons, and do not let the evil spirits rule over them, lest they destroy them from the earth. Bless me and my sons, and let us grow and increase and fill the earth. And you know that which your watchers, the fathers of these spirits, so now he's talking about the fathers of the spirits, as it says, you know, when the sons of men came to the daughters, the sons of Yah, who came to the daughters of men and had sex, they gave birth to these race of beings called the Nephilim, or the giants, which is covered in Genesis chapter 6. And after Yah caused the flood, he wiped off these giants, but the fleshly part died, but the part that was Melachim, or the part that was angel, that was the demons. So that was the origin of demons right there. That's how demons came about to be. They were the offspring, you know, they were the Nephilim, and when the fleshly part died, that angelic part was still forever, because they're not going to die yet. They're going to suffer a way worse fate, which is the lake of fire. And so these demons are troubling us. These demons, I mean, if you got the spirit of jealousy on you, that's a demon. If you have the spirit of gambling on you, that's a demon. As a matter of fact, earlier today, me and Elder Aharon, we were talking about just how, you know, that exhilaration, that feeling somebody gets, you know, when they pull the slot machine, that's that demon giving you that feeling of sheer joy. You know, you done spent your rent money. You know what I'm saying? Before you know it, you're homeless, you know, you're out on the streets, but you still want to take that last dime. When people say, man, what would make somebody just gamble all of their life away like that? That's what it is. It's that demon. I mean, people say, I hear voices. They really do hear voices. You know what I'm saying? When you get a killer confessing, we say, man, I heard voices in my head. They really do be hearing voices. They ain't crazy or nothing. They hear these demons talking to them, just like I'm talking to you right now. That's how they hear them. You know what I'm saying? We all hear them. You know, you might see it as, you might think of it as your conscience or whatever. You know what I'm saying? You know, when you hear something telling you not to do something, when you hear something telling you to do something good, that's Yah's set apart spirit trying to talk to you. When you hear something say, man, go out and rob that nigga. Man, go out and do. That's Satan. Those are demons. But anyway, this is what, that was the origin of the demons. And this is Noah praying to Yah. And when he said, your watcher is the father of these spirits, that's what in fact he's talking about, these spirits. So now, did in my days, and also these spirits who are alive, shut them up and take them to a place of judgment, and do not let them cause corruption among the sons of your servant, O my Yah, because they are cruel and were created to destroy. Get that? The sole purpose of a demon is created to destroy. So now, bearing that in mind, I want to give you an example real quick. I don't know if you guys ever seen this, but there's this movie called The Golden Compass. And in this movie, these people have demons walking around with them. They're talking about these are good demons, and everybody has one. Check that movie out if you guys hadn't seen it, man. It is crazy. Then these demons are, they're animals. So everybody's got this little animal. Like one guy may have a hawk flying with him. You know, one person may have like a lion or something like that walking with him, but they call them demons. And they're saying that everybody has one. I pray to Yah that I ain't got no demons on me. You know what I'm saying? And when I find a demon on me, or when I find myself being influenced by a demon, I try my hardest to rebuke it. And the only way you can rebuke a demon is in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Because that is the only name that carries power. But now, getting back to what we were reading. Because they were created to destroy. And let them not rule over the spirits of the living, because you alone know their judgment. And do not let them have the power over the children of the righteous henceforth and forever. Now, this is verses 7 and 8 right here. And this is the binding of 9/10 of the demons. And the Most High, our mighty one Yah, spoke to us so that we might bind all of them. And this is, when he's saying Yah spoke to us, this is Micaiah and Uriah, which is referenced, you can cross-reference that in the book of Enoch as well. When you, I'll give you the verses in a couple seconds. And the chief of the spirits, Nastema, came and he said, O Yah, O Creator, leave some... Wait a minute. Okay, yeah. O Yah, O Creator, leave some of them before me and let them obey my voice. So this is Satan right there. That's what Satan is pleading with Yah, saying, leave some of them and let them obey my voice. And let them do everything which I tell them, because if some of them are not left for me, I will not be able to exercise the authority of my will among the children of men, because they are indeed to corrupt and led astray before my judgment, because the evil of the sons of the men is great. And he said, let 1/10 of them remain before him, but let nine parts go down into the place of judgment. So you see, that's interesting right there, because you have Satan partitioning. They have him under the name of they said the chief of the spirits, Mastema. Well, he's known by many names. I guess that's just another one of his other names. But he says, "Oh Yah, Creator, leave some of them before me, and let them obey my voice, and let them do everything in which I tell them, because if some of them are not left for me, I will not be able to exercise the authority of my will among the children of men, because they are intended to corrupt and lead astray before my judgment, because of the evil of the sons of men is great." And he said, let 1/10 of them remain before, but let 9 parts of them go into the place of judgment. That's pretty deep right there. Verse 10, and he told one of us to teach Noah all the healings, because he knew that they would not walk uprightly and would not strive righteously, and we acted in according with all his words. All the evil ones who were cruel were bound in the place of judgment, but a tenth of them we let remain, so that they might be subject to Satan upon the earth, and the healing of all their illnesses, together with their seductions, we told Noah, so that he might heal by means of herbs of the earth. And Noah wrote everything in a book, just as we taught him, according to every kind of healing. So check that out. And so the evil spirits were restrained from following Noah. And everything which he wrote, and he gave everything in which he wrote to Shem, his oldest son, because he loved them much more than all his sons. Now, isn't that interesting right there? They gave Noah information on healing with herbs. But conversely, when we read in the book of Enoch, those wicked watchers gave those people the same thing. But you see, those people in this time attributed that information to the gods, so they worship the gods for giving them the healing. Like they say, this god is the goddess of healing. As a matter of fact, man, the Spirit is leading me to go. Check this out, y'all. This is deep. Check this out right here. This is about the name Jesus. Incidentally, here it is right here. And again, this is in the back of the scriptures right here. This is a definition of Jesus. Now, check this out. Consider Iosus, I-E-S-O-U-S, rendered as Jesus in the English version up to now. For an example, the authoritative Greek-English lexicon of Little and Scott under IASO, I-A-S-O, the Greek goddess of healing. Check that out. So could this be that the goddess of healing is actually Jesus? When these gods came down, and that the name Jesus now, that could be one of the names, the modern names of this goddess of healing, which was taught to our people way back in this day. Isn't that something? I'll read further. The Greek goddess of healings reveals that the name Ieso is Ieso, or I-E-S-O, the Ionic dialect of the Greeks, Iusis, being the contracted genitive form. In David Kravitz's Dictionary of Greek and Roman Mythology, Greek and Roman mythology, Greek and Roman god worship, we found a similar form, namely Iasus, I-A-S-U-S. There were 4 different Greek deities, gods, with the name of Iasus, one of them being the son of Rhea. Further, it is known that IAES is the abbreviated form of the name Iasus, and Dr. Bollinger in the Apocalypse, page 396, says that this 3-letter word, IAES, was a part of the name Bacchus. Bacchus is that fish god. So now it all makes sense. Now that you see these Christians driving around with that fish symbol on the back of their car with the cross in the middle, could that be where that came from? Bacchus, the fish god, who was Iasus, who was Iusis, the Greek goddess of healing, who was just another Egyptian god, who was another Babylonian god, who was another Sumerian god, who came from these gods, the origins of the gods. Y'all see where this is going? So you calling on the name Jesus, man, they don't tell them who you calling on. But when you call on the name of Yahoshua, salvation of Yah, hey, that goes from cover to cover. That's eternal, y'all. You can't change that. Just like my name is Moshe, people always say, oh, it's just translation. Jesus and Yahushua was the same thing. Blasphemy. Check it out. Because Moshe is Moshe in Spanish. I mean, you could be watching something on the foreign channel TV, and they could be blah, 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 blah. O.J. Simpson. You'll hear that name, and you'll know that that's that person's name. So why would the son of Yah be any different? Why would the Mashiach be any different? You know, if it's Yahoshua in Hebrew, why I gotta be Jesus in English? You see how the lie is being exposed now? We just read from the back right here, and we cited several different sources. Do the research on your own, y'all, but I just wanted to bring that up. So again, that name Jesus, that ain't nothing but another God. Now, let's go to Jasher chapter 7, verses 23, and let's read about the first God King, Mr. Nimrod. Yeah, Nimrod was something. He was the first to be worshipped as a god. God King. Man God King. They put a crown on his head. He unified the whole world. Nimrod was like, hey, this is my world. I own this. And it's funny because Nimrod was the first to establish a new world order. And that's the direction that we're moving in nowadays. You know, when the man of sin comes in, he's going to sit in Nimrod's seat. And he's going to crown himself as the God of all gods. But see, those who have eyes to see, the true children of Israel, we know that that's the time for us to get up and go. Because we know that's when Satan's going to be ousted out of the highest heavens. He ain't going to be able to ascend no more. And it's going to be trouble for the children of Israel. Alright, let's read on. We're going to read in the 7th chapter of Jasher. We're going to read from verses 23 all the way to verse 48. And we're going to go ahead and then after that, we'll jump to Jasher chapter 9. But first things first, we're going to go to Jasher chapter 7. And this is verses 23 through 48. And here we go. And Cush, the son of Ham, the son of Noah, took a wife in those days in his old age, and she bare him a son, and they called his name Nimrod, saying, at the time the sons of men began to rebel and transgress against Yah. Here we go again, that same thing that's happening. And the child grew up, and his father loved him exceedingly, for he was the son of his old age. And the garments of skin which Yah made for Adam and Eve, his wife. I'm sorry. And the garments of skin which Yah made for Adam and his wife when they went out of the garden were given to Cush. And after the death of Adam and his wife, the garments were given to Enoch, son of Jared. And when Enoch was taken up with Yah, or when Enoch died, because we know Enoch is not up in heaven right now, as is no man except Yahushua. Yahushua is the only person who walked as a man and ascended to the heavens, and who is in heaven right now. He gave them to Methuselah, his son. Verse 26. And at the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them into the ark, and they were with him until he went out of the ark. Verse 27. And in their going out, Ham stole those garments from Noah his father, and he took them and hid them from his brothers. And Ham begat his firstborn Cush, and he gave his garments in secret, and they were with Cush many days. Verse 29. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. And when Cush begat Nimrod, he gave those garments through his love for him, and Nimrod grew up. And when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. So you see, we have a passing of those garments. Now those garments held certain properties which allowed Nimrod, as we're going to read, to, Yah was with Nimrod also, and those garments, being that they were made by Yah and given to Adam and Eve, they possessed certain properties which allowed Nimrod almost superhuman-like qualities. They allowed Nimrod to conquer his enemies. Let's see here. And Nimrod became strong when he put on those garments, and Yah gave him might and strength, and he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yea, he was mighty hunter in the field, and he hunted the animals and built altars, and he offered upon them the animals before Yah. Verse 31. And Nimrod strengthened himself, and he rose up from amongst his brethren, and he fought the battles of his brethren against all their enemies round about. And the Most High Yah delivered all the enemies of his brethren in his hands, and Yah prospered him from time to time in his battles, and he reigned upon the earth. Verse 33. And therefore it became current in those days, when a man ushered forth those that he had trained up for battle, he would say to them, like Yah did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth, and who succeeded in the battles that prevailed against his brethren, that he delivered them from the hands of their enemies. So may Yah strengthen us and deliver us this day. So that became a saying. Nimrod was so great, they made a slogan after him. Verse 34. And when Nimrod was 40 years old, at the time there was a war between his brethren and the children of Japhet, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went forth at the time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men. And he hired also some of his friends and acquaintances, about 80 men, and and begave them their heir. And he went with them into battle. And there was when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went in with him. And he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all your enemies will be delivered into your hands, and you may do with them as you please. Verse 37. And all the men that went were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them. And Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places. That's interesting. Now, after this war with Nimrod, you don't really hear about the sons of Japhet anymore. He basically drove them out of what we now know as the Middle East into what is now known as the Caucasus Mountain regions. In that way, he drove them further up north, and you don't really hear about the sons of Japhet anymore. Verse 38. And he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brethren. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. Verse 39. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle after having conquered his enemies, all his brethren, together with those who knew him before, assembled to make him king over them. And they placed a regal crown upon his head. And he set over his subjects and people, princes and judges and rulers, as is the custom amongst the kings. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and he dignified him and elevated him above all his princes. Verse 42. And whilst he was reigning according to his heart desire, after having conquered all his enemies around, he advised with his counselors to build a city and his palace, and they did so. And so now we have Nimrod establishing his rulership, his dominion right here. Verse 43. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of that city he built Shinar, for the Most High had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar and reigned securely, and he fought against his enemies and subdued them. And he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And all nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him, and they bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings. And he became their master, or he became their lord and king. And they dwelt with him in the city at Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were under his power and counsel. So here we go right here in verse 45. It gets pretty interesting. They term him their lord. It says he became their lord, he became their master and king. Ain't that something? So they gave him God-like qualities, it would seem. He was worshipped as a God king, in fact. Interesting. Verse 46. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of the Most High, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him, from the days of the flood unto those days. So here we go right here. Now we're starting to find out a little bit of something about Mr. Nimrod now. Check this out. They're starting to worship him as a God king. He's got his own kingdom. He's speaking words of union. Excuse me, who does that sound like? It sounds a lot like somebody we know these days. Or a lot like somebody we will get to know. That's the man of sin. Man of sin is going to come on the scene pretty soon. He's gonna speak words of union, and he's going to unite the world in an unholy matrimony, and he's going to announce himself to be the God of gods, and that's going to be when it's time to hit the road, Hebrew Israelites. Excuse me. Verse 47. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and he rebelled against the Most High Yah, and he taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And Mardon his son was more wicked than his father. And everyone that heard of the acts of Mardon the son of Nimrod would say concerning him, From the wicked go forth wickedness. Therefore it became a proverb in the whole world, saying, From the wicked go forth wickedness. And it is current in the words of the man from that day to this. Like they say, the apple don't fall too far from the tree. Same thing. Same thing. Now it's interesting, because we find out later when we keep on reading that Terah is Abram's father, who later becomes Abraham, our patriarch. And see, Abraham tests his father and tests his father's gods. We're going to read about that in a couple seconds, but it's interesting because, Terah is a God worshiper, and Abraham came from that. So brothers and sisters, even though we were in the dark at one point in time, it's not impossible for us to come out of that dark and come into Yah's marvelous light. And that's what the story of Abraham, man. It's a beautiful story once you read it and you have that understanding of it. Right now we're going to jump down to Joshua chapter 9. We're wrapping up. We're going to wrap it up here. After we read these, we're going to go into a little bit of a description about these Anunnaki, who these fallen ones were, because they tie in a great deal to Nimrod. Because of course Nimrod, he built the Tower of Babel, or the Tower of Babel, and he had instruction. He got instruction from someone, and now we're going to start. We're going to go a little bit further into this. Now we're going to start naming these gods. We named some of them before, with the Watchers, but now we're going to start naming these fallen ones, because now they're the ones who are exerting influence over this world to this day, and they haven't stopped since the times of beginning. So those are the ones who are really pulling the strings, and that's what we're coming to now. We're nearing the end of this first lesson, and then next week, Yah willing, we're going to come back with the part 2 of this, and then we're going to chronicleize from basically, we're going to go from the Babylonians. We're going to end with the Sumerians here. Then we'll pick up next week with the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, and then we're going to go into all the gods of the New Age. They're the same gods, but they just have different names, and we're going to show that. But overall, this lesson is called The Origin of the Gods and Forbidden Knowledge. But next week we're going to be naming the gods, and then we're going to go into the esoteric side, the different secret societies, or the watchdog groups, so to speak. But now, here we go. This is the book of Jasher, chapter 9, and we're going to read verses 1 through 39 right here. And here we go. And Haran, son of Terah, Abram's oldest brother, took a wife in those days. And Haran was 39 years old when he took her. And the wife of Haran conceived and bore a son, and his name is called Lot. And she conceived again and bare a daughter, and she called her name Milcah. And she again conceived and bore a daughter, and she called her name Sarai. Verse 4. And Haran was 42 years old when he begat Sarai, which is the 10th year of the life of Abram. And in those days Abram and his mother, a nurse, went out from the cave, as the king and his subjects had forgotten the affair of Abram. Verse 5. And again, that what they're talking about right here, some of Nimrod's conjurers, or some of his spiritualists, or some of his advisors, or whatever, so to speak, they saw visions of Abraham, and Abraham basically destroying, what Nimrod had what Nimrod had come to build. And so Nimrod sought to destroy Abraham, but as the story goes, Terah tricked Nimrod. He gave Nimrod one of his servants' eldest sons, and he hid Abram inside a cave. And so that's what this is talking about right here. If you guys want, I advise, man, please read that story. I believe that's in the 8th chapter of the book of Joshua. But for all intents and purposes, and for the sake of this lesson, we didn't read that. But I would advise reading this entire book, man, because it really fills in a lot of stuff. But that's what that story was talking about. So Terah had hid Abram and Abram's mother inside a cave, and so now Abram's 10, so now he's come out of the cave. That's what that particular verse right there is talking about. Verse 5. And when Abram came out of the cave, he went to Noach and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instruction of the Most High Yah and his ways. And you see, remember when Noah gave Shem, his oldest son, he gave him the writings about how to heal with herbs and things like that, as we read in the Pseudepigrapha. And now we see why, because now we see why Noah loved his son Shem over his other sons, because his other sons were doing unrighteous things. The sons of Japhet and the sons of Ham, they were out warring and worshiping gods and things like that. But his son Shem and his sons were, Yah-fearing people. And remained with them to learn the instruction of the Most High and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was, and Abram served Noach and Shem his son for a long time. Verse 6. And Abram was in Noach's house 39 years, and Abram knew the Most High from 3 years old, and he went in the ways of the Most High Yah until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against Yah. Here we go again. I know you're tired of hearing it, because I'm tired of saying it. But hey, that's what we do, man. Stiff-necked people. Stiff-necked, wicked, ignorant people. We do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we have to get it repeated, so we get it through our thick skulls. You see. And they rebelled against him, and they served gods, and they forgot the Most High, who had created them in the earth. And the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves at that time every man his god, gods of wood and gods of stone, which could neither speak nor hear nor deliver. And the sons of men served them, and they became their gods. There we go again, the origin of the gods. You see, brothers and sisters, it ain't got to be, some fallen one to worship as a god. I mean, those are gods, you know what I'm saying? But you could be worshiping your chain. If you covet that chain and love that chain more than you love Yah, that's your god. If you covet money and love money more than Yah, then that's your god. If you covet having sex or just lust and all of that, that demon of lust is your god. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? But these people were making engraven images. You know what I'm saying? If you worshiping and kissing a doggone Virgin Mary image or whatever, that's your God. The mother goddess. We're going to dissect that next week, not to get too far ahead of myself. But I say all of that because anything you put over Yah, that becomes your God. That's why Yah in the Ten Commandments, he said, I am the Most High, thou Father Yah. Thou shalt not have any other Elohim or gods above me. You know what I'm saying? Because once you put that above Yah, then you're lessening Yah's authority, which is wrong. In Terah, Abraham's father was a big God worshiper, as we're going to read here in a couple seconds. Verse 7. And the king and all his servants, and Terah, who was Abraham's father, with all his household, were the first of those that served gods of wood and stone. So here we go right here. Ain't that something? That's interesting right there. We're going to find out who gave them the inspiration to worship these gods of wood and stone. And Terah had 12 gods of large size made of wood and stone after the 12 months of the year. Isn't that something? And he served each one monthly. Every month Terah would bring his meat offering and drink offerings to his gods, and thus did Terah all the days. So that's the same thing as the whole astrological sign, where I'm a Capricorn, I'm a Scorpio, I'm this. Those are gods, brothers and sisters. Be careful with that stuff. Verse 9. And all that generation was wicked in the sight of the Most High Yah, and thus they made man his God, but they forsook the Most High that created them. I'm going to read that again, verse 9. And all that generation was wicked in the sight of Yah, and they thus made every man his God. They forsook the Most High Yah who had created them. Verse 10. And there was not a man found in those days in the whole earth who knew the Most High Yah, for they served each man his own God, except Noah and his household, and all those who were under his counsel knew the Most High Yah in those days. And Abram, son of Terah, was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it, and the Most High Yah was with him. And Yah gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of that generation were vain, and that all their gods were vain and were of no avail. And that's just further validating what we had read. But we didn't read it, but what I mentioned before in the book of Ecclesiastes, where King Shlomo said he starts it out with futility, and all is vain. You know what I'm saying? Abraham knew that this is vain. We who have eyes to see know that all of this stuff is vain. Houses, cars, prestige. People walk around, oh, I'm Dr. such and such. Why would you even call yourself a doctor if you're not in the hospital? That's the only time I want to hear the term doctor, is if I got my arm chopped off or something like that and I need a doctor to sew it up. I don't care if you're a doctor and we out in the street. You introduce yourself. Oh, I'm Dr. Thaddeus Goldwater. Do I care? You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm Moshe. You know what I'm saying? Servant of Yah. But hey, man, it's just little stuff like that, man. That's vainness. You know what I'm saying? You have to say, oh, I'm Moshe Yisrael. You might have seen me in such films as blah 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 blah, actor, thespian, blah 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 blah, Esquire. All of these different titles and stuff behind your name, man. Do I give a care about that stuff? That don't make no sense, and it don't make a bit of difference in the eyesight of Yah. It's funny, and this is one of the rituals that they do in these secret societies. It's the Skull and Bones. They do this. They set two skulls in front of you, and they say, which one is the rich man and which one is the poor man? And you have the initiate's he's racking his brain trying to figure out which is the rich man and which is the poor man. He's looking at one, looking at the other one, looking underneath the skull, looking all around it, trying to find little differences and stuff like that. And then, the guys who know, they laughing at him, you know what I'm saying? Because, ultimately, if the initiate can't figure it out, they tell him that there is no difference between the rich and the poor man. They're both dead. That's why they tell you to do what thy wilt, be the whole of the law. Do what you do right now. Do whatever you want to do right now, because when you're dead and gone, don't nobody know whether you were a rich man or a poor man. You see what I'm saying? That's why they're trying to live forever. They don't want to give this up. They don't want to die. They don't want to give up those worldly possessions. But see, Abram, then he was Abraham. He was Abram before he was called Abraham. He knew about vanity. He knew that stuff was vain. King Shlomo knew about vanity. You know what I'm saying? We know about vanity. You know it don't make a bit of difference if you got on a pair of Air Jordans or Pro Wings. And that's a little old school, Pro Wings. They both shoes. They both keep your feet dry. But it's only because of vanity that you want those Air Jordans. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you might say, Brother Moshe, what kind of shoes you got on now? Some $10 shoes. And I had these pants for about 7 years. But you know what? I got clothes on. And I got this shirt from the dollar store. Don't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? And this watch is like a, El Cheapo. But it tells time. It serves its purpose. I say all that to say this, brothers and sisters. Let's lose that vanity. Let's lose that vain arrogance, man. You know what I'm saying? Let's lose the titles. We all brothers and sisters here. That's all. Verse 13. Check this out right here. These are pretty deep. And Abram saw the sun shining upon the earth. And Abram said unto himself, surely now this sun that shines upon the earth is God, and him I shall serve. So now Abram's he's making fun of it. He's testing it. And Abram served the sun in that day, and he prayed to him. And when evening came, actually he's trying the spirit. That's what it is. He's testing the spirit. And Abram served the sun in that day, and he prayed to him. And when the evening came, and the sun set as usual, and Abram said to himself, surely this cannot be Yah. And Abram still continued to speak within himself, who is he who made the heavens and the earth? Who created upon the earth? Where is he? Verse 16. And night darkened over him, and he lifted his eyes toward the west, north, south, and east. And he saw the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And Abram saw the stars and the moon before him, and he said, surely this is the Yah, or this is the mighty one who created the whole earth, as well as man. And behold, these his servants are gods around him. And Abram served the moon and prayed to it all night. Incidentally, Allah is the moon god. So when you guys are praying to Allah, you're praying to the moon god. And Amun-Ra, or Jesus, all of those guys, they're the sun gods. That's why Jesus has that halo or that sun disk around his head. You feel me? That's why Jesus was allegedly born on the 25th of Christmas. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we'll get into that later. I don't want to get too far. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Verse 18. And in the morning, when it was light, and the sun had shone upon the earth as usual, Abraham saw all the things that Yah had made upon the earth. Verse 19. And Abraham said to himself, surely these are not gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are servants of Yah. And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew the Most High Yah and his ways, and he served the Most High Yah all the days of his life. And all the generation forgot the Most High and served other gods of wood and stone, and they rebelled in all their days. So basically what Abraham was doing in that short section right there was Abraham was trying the spirit. Abraham was like, okay man, all these other people worshiping the sun and worshiping the moon and worshiping the constellations and building altars. Let me see, is there some validity to this? So he went down and did it, and he saw that there was no validity to it. And so he knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that Yah was real. So brothers and sisters, I offer this to you. If you think Jesus is real, test the spirit. If you think Buddha is real, test the spirit. If you think these gods and these deities can offer you any truth, test the spirit. Take Jesus up against the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? See if Jesus doing away with the Shabbat compares with Yahushua keeping the Shabbat. Because Yahushua says, I am the master of the Shabbat. And there are several scriptures in here that cite Yahushua going in to worship on the Shabbat as was his custom. So if Jesus is worshiping on Sunday and Yahushua is worshiping on the Shabbat day, and Yah told us to worship on the Shabbat day, who's right and who's wrong? Jesus might have did away with the law. Whose law did he do away with? He did away with Yah's law? And you want to serve that? I don't think so, man. That's just it. You know, and that's not arrogance, man. That's just truth. You know what I'm saying? Be real about it. You know, Yahushua, Yah's salvation, salvation of Yah. It says in Acts chapter 4, verses 12, there's only one name under the heavens by which you can attain salvation. It ain't Jesus. Because we just read where Jesus came from. Jesus came from the Greek goddess of healing and several other deities. So Jesus is a hodgepodge of different gods, where Yahushua is the son of the living mighty one, the son of the Most High Yah. That's just it. Verse 20. And King Nimrod reigned securely all of the days, and all the earth was under his control, and all of the earth was under one tongue and words of union. Verse 21. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took under counsel together, put Mizraim, Cush, and Canaan with their families. Now think about this. Mizraim, which is now known as Egypt. Think about how many gods the Egyptians have. The Canaanites, think about the gods that they worship. Baal. The Cushites, you know what I'm saying? Think about the gods that they worship. It's simple. It's right there, y'all. That's why when we went into these lands, Yah said, destroy all of them and their gods. Don't even mix with them. That's why when the children of Israel were exodusing out of Mizraim, he said, hey, go in there, and Yah even smited all of those people, the ones that we couldn't handle. So why would you go back now, modern day Egyptologists? Why would you go back? Why would you run back to Mizraim? You know what I'm saying? Modern day Christian, why would you run back to the Canaanites' god, Baal? Because that's who Lord God is. Lord is actually a derivative of Baal, master. You see? All it takes is just a little bit of research, and you wanting to seek Yah in truth, in earnestness. And they said to each other, come, let us build for ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and at its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed. Again, that vanity. Let's go up to the heavens. Let's be like gods. Come on, y'all. Let's do it. Now it starts to get interesting. Now there's a motive behind the madness. Before it was just regular God worship. Now there's an actual motive to it. Now you see, man, let's go. Let's replace y'all. Let's make ourselves gods. Origin of the gods. So that we might reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we might reign mightily over them, that we might not become scattered over the earth on the account of the wars. Verse 22. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words. And the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled, consisting of about 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower, and they sought the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk, and they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. Verse 24. And they began to make bricks, and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. Verse 25. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin. And they began to build it. And whilst they were building it against the Most High of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. Ain't that something? Their arrogance and their wickedness has reached a certain, crescendo to now where they just want to go in and fight Yah outright. Ain't no more hiding it. Ain't no more, sugar-coating it, or nothing like that, candy coating it. Satan is telling them, let's go to heaven and let's make war with Yah. Let's do it. Come on, y'all. And they had help. And after we read this, we're going to find out who helped them. Verse 26. And all these people and all the families divided themselves into 3 parts. The first said, we will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, we will ascend into heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, we shall ascend into heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And Yah knew all their works and all their evil thoughts, and he saw the city and the tower in which they were building. Now I'm going to stop right here real quick, and we're going to go back to Genesis chapter 2. When I jump down to, what was that, verses 21 and 22, when Yah said, look, man has become like one of us, and least he reach out and touch and eat of the tree of life. Now just think about it. Just think about if Adam and Eve had did that. If they had went out there and ate of the tree of life. Now they would be like angels. You know what I'm saying? They would be living forever. And think about if they'd have tried to go in and make war with Yah then. See, Yah knew all of this even back then. So that's why we were ousted out of heaven again. See that? Now, verse 27. They built themselves a great city, a very high strong tower on the account of its height. The mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it until those who went up had completed a full year. That's pretty tall. So I'm wondering, how could they get up there that high? Because, the higher up you go, you can't really breathe. So if it took them a full year to get up there, they must have made it pretty high. You know what I'm saying? The air must have been pretty thin, if there was any air at all. Let's continue to read. After that, they reached to the builders and gave them mortar and bricks. Thus it was done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day. And if a brick should fall from their hands and got broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. Verse 29. And the Most High knew their thoughts, and it came to pass when they were building, they cast arrows toward the heavens, and the arrows fell upon them filled with blood. And they saw them and said to each other, surely we have slain all of those in heaven. See, y'all threw a curveball in there. Now, if they're shooting arrows, they're not shooting physical arrows up into the heavens. They must have had something. You know what I'm saying? They must have had some sort of technology to do this. We're going to keep on reading. We're going to explain that in these short videos of who exactly was helping them. Now, for this, verse 30. For this was from the Most High Yah in order to cause them to error, in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. And they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years had elapsed. And Yah said to 70 angels that stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man should not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. Verse 33. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one tongue. And when the builder took from the hands of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. Verse 35. And the Most High Yah smote the 3 divisions that were there, and he punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, we shall ascend into heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants, wild animals. Those who said, we will smite the heaven with arrows, the Most High Yah killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, we shall ascend into heaven to fight against him, Yah scattered them throughout the earth. And those that were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower Therefore they had called the place Babel, or Babel. For the Most High Yah confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof, and fire also descended from heaven and burned another 1/3, and the other 1/3 was left to this day. And its part which was aloft its circumference is 3 days' walk. And many of the sons of men died in the tower of Babel, or died in that tower, of people without number. Now I read all of that to get you guys ready for what we're about to go into now. Obviously, with the amount of technology that it took for them to build and construct these things, and the arrows that they were talking about to shoot up and things like that, and them ascending and taking a year to get up there, they had help. Well, who was it that helped these people? Let's find out. Now, these beings or these entities that assisted Nimrod in this endeavor were known or are known nowadays as the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki, they live now on a planet that is in our planetary system. It has an elliptical orbit, a longer orbit, so it takes it, I believe its precession takes 3,600 years for it to come through. And now this planet is known by many names: Nibiru, Marduk, Wormwood, the Destroyer, the Red Star, and lately Planet X. Now the Sumerians, their religion that they practiced, it was a polytheistic religion, meaning that they had many gods with anthropomorphic deities representing different cosmic terrestrial forces in their world. According to their mythology, the gods originally, now this is according to their mythology, this is the lie that the gods, those Anunnaki told them. They told them that the gods originally created the humans as servants to serve them, but freed them when they came, the humans became too much of a problem to handle, so they freed them. And now check this out: when these fallen ones return in these coming years, this is going to be the same lie that they used to get man under the spell again. Hey, we created you. Look, we have a map to your DNA. Hey, you want the cure for cancer, cure for AIDS, all that stuff? We got it right here. Here's the trick though. There's a God that we worship. This is the God of all gods. And that's when the man of sin is going to come onto the scene. But here are just some of the names of some of their gods that they had. An, A-N, is the god of heaven and the firmament. Ki is the goddess of earth, and actually Ki is the name of Ki is the name that they use for earth. And let's see, Enlil or E-N-L-I-L is the god of air. Enki is the god of water, knowledge. Inanna, I-N-A-N-N-A, is a goddess of sexual love, female fertility. Nali, or Nili, N-I-N-L-I-L, the air goddess. And then they have a god of war, the god of sun. Basically, these gods are the same gods that the Babylonians have, which were the same gods that the Egyptians take, which are the same gods that the Greeks took, the same gods that the Romans took, the same gods, yada, 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 all the way up to the modern day gods that we have here now. So brothers and sisters, this is basically the first part of this lesson in a nutshell. I wanted to be short because I wanted to show you a series of videos right now. This is a 3-part series that we're about to go into now. This is called, the title of these 3 videos right here is called The Sumerians and the Anunnaki. Again, we know that the Sumerians were the race that Nimrod belonged to. So this is the origin of this whole esoteric society, because with this, now you started hoarding information. You started keeping the information secret because you want to remain near and dear to these fallen ones. They require, your complete and total worship, so you have to swear an allegiance to them. So now we have the foundation or the founding of these secret societies, which comes after that. And we're going to go into greater depth in explaining that, the origin of the mystery school systems and the origins of the secret societies. That's going to come in part 2 of this. But for right now, this is the end of part 1. We're going to show you these short videos, and then after that we'll take questions and answers. So that is the end of the lesson, brothers and sisters. Hey, I'd like to leave you in peace. So I greet you, I leave you in peace. I say shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom to those watching on the Shabbat. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, I just say may Yah continue to guide you and increase your understanding. Our website is www.HebrewIsraelites.org. Please join a call, you know what I'm saying? Give us a call. Come in and join us on some of our weekly chat rooms and things like that. And that's about it. So again, shalom, shalom.
Good night, America. Good morning, world. We here about to witness something we ain't seen in a long time. A new revolution. Call me Simba, I'm the King Lion, reppin' the city Zion. Lost souls still crying. Every day I'm reminded how this world is two-sided. One is dark as hell, the other's well-lighted. And that ain't mountain I'll climb it. Mount Rushmore in the worst climate. Cause I ain't scared of heights. And I ain't scared of war, boy. I ain't scared to fight. Like Phil Collins, I can hear it in the air at night. The voice calling, worse than a bill collector. But I can't reject the word from my protector. So I answer the calls and break down walls. You knock me down, down and like a B-boy, I'll break my fall. It's crush groove of the new school, crush cruise, what I must do. Treat them like lunch food, eat them up. Good. My eyes is red, so you know my soul is heated up. It's a battle and I come to tear the evil up.
It's over. To quit, I'll fight until my job is done. I can't give up this fight for anyone. I'll go all out from night until the morning sun.
Sun, baby.
Till the war is won.
Till the war is